Alright, ladies and gentlemen, what is going on? Darkside Phil here. And E3 2019 is still happening right now over in Las Vegas. LA, duh. But pretty much all the things, all the major announcements have been said. The show floor is open. Everyone has seen all the major stuff on the show floor. And at this point, all the information, all the bombshells have been dropped, and everything's been made public. Now, I covered E3 over the course of this week, covering the 4 major press conferences that happened, including Microsoft, Bethesda, Ubisoft, and Square Enix. I did recap and reactions broadcasts for each one of those press conferences, and if you have not seen them yet, those are currently available right now over on DSPGaming for you to watch. Alright, so if you haven't seen them yet on DSPGaming on YouTube, those are on demand. In fact, I'm going to put this video in a playlist with them. You can't miss them. I strongly recommend, if you want in-depth coverage of all those press conferences, that you watch those recap and reactions broadcasts that I've already done. Today, the purpose of this video is for me to give a cumulative recap of the things that I loved, the things that I hated, and the things that are just kind of meh about E3 2019. Now, admittedly, a lot of people have been very critical about this year's Electronic Entertainment Expo, saying that really didn't seem like there was much going on, that yeah, there were some announcements, but nowhere near as many interesting ones as previous E3s. I kind of have to agree. If anything, I think we kind of knew going into E3 2019 that that was maybe going to be the case, being that Sony, for the first time ever, did not have a major stage show. They felt that they did not need to have their presence known at E3. In addition to that, EA was only going to do a digital conference when previously they've always done a stage show as well. There's just a lot of stuff that seems to be changing about E3. And, a lot of people have been asking me, what do I think about the future of E3? And my honest opinion is, after seeing E3 2019, I feel like, honestly, E3 is on the way out as being something pertinent to gaming culture. And I mean that. Like, it seems to me E3 has now become a gaming convention, since normal people can now buy tickets and go in as if it were just a gaming convention. It's not just a closed-door press kind of deal. It's really not the one media event every year where you get all your information about new games. It's not. With Sony doing their own thing, Nintendo constantly doing their own thing, you've got these major publishers now that have decided they're just going to do it their way. They're not going to wait for E3 to be the big bombshell of all their announcements. And Sony, after spending so much money in 2018 on this insanely huge conference that most people panned, it's not surprising to hear that now they just don't want to do it anymore. I would almost predict, being very honest here, E3 will still exist. It's not going to go away, but E3 will become the gaming conference of the year. And what I mean by that is, like, if you want to be in gaming, all the gaming content creators are going to go and do vlogs and streaming at it, and everyone who's a fan of games is going to try to get in. It's going to be a giant convention party, but it's not necessarily going to be the media event of the year anymore, that all these major companies are just going to start releasing information when they want, okay? If you even remember, both Microsoft and Sony, last console gen, when they announced the PS4 and the Microsoft Xbox One, they kind of did so at their own events, and then they just elaborated at E3 versus E3 being the launching pad for these things. So it's kind of interesting to me that E3 this year was so, I guess the best word for it is lackluster, okay? And again, not to say that E3 didn't have good announcements. There were some good. I have a best countdown list of things that I thought were really good, but compared to previous years, I do feel that E3 is kind of fallen off, and even some of the big publishers who used to do these amazing press conferences that blew us away, now they're just kind of become commonplace meh kind of deals, all right? So, what I'd like to do as we open this show, this is going to have 3 segments, all right? The first segment, what I'm going to do is I'm going to run down to things I didn't really cover with my 4 major press conference recap and reactions broadcasts. So I'm going to talk about EA, Nintendo, and Call of Duty Modern Warfare. Because quite frankly, I pretty much almost covered everything else. So once I talk about those things, I feel like I've covered the things that I want to talk about E3 2019. Then, the next segment, I'm going to talk about the things that I thought were the best, the meh, and the worst of E3 2019. So it's going to kind of be a rundown, not necessarily a countdown. I'm not going to top 10 or anything like that, but I'm just going to go through a list of things that I thought were really good or bad or just kind of meh, so that you kind of get a feeling of all the kind of vibe that was going on at E3 this year. The final segment of this broadcast, I'm going to cumulatively, go through the entire gaming calendar for the rest of 2019, as well as early 2020, because now we've gotten so many game release dates at E3 2019. We want to see the gaming landscape at a glance. We want to be able to say, I wonder what games are coming out when, what months are going to be game heavy and release heavy, and what months are just going to be very slow. You know what I mean? That's kind of what we're going to do. Now, another thing. If people cheer, sub, or tip during today's stream, I will give them a live shout-out during the broadcast. I did not do that with my previous recap videos, but I'm going to do that for this one, okay? So I'm going to have other people's input kind of interjected into this show as we're going. So to start, we start off Chewbacca cheered and said, you agree with Alpha Omega Sin, who said that the combat in Final Fantasy VII Remake is similar to VATS in Fallout. What's your take on the combat? I can understand why you would say that. Like in Fallout, it's full action-paced, full FPS, but then you can freeze the combat in order to particularly aim at a precise area and try to get like a critical hit or a higher chance to hit. I mean, the freezing aspect is similar, but no, it's not like VATS because you're using completely new abilities like magic or special attacks, while in VATS, it's just regular bullets, right? Regular shots. So what I would say is it's more comparable to Final Fantasy 15 or Kingdom Hearts 3, where during the active combat you would select a different ability to use, only you can now freeze to take a little bit of time to be more strategic. It's definitely a hybrid engine, but I understand why he said that, but I don't necessarily think it's like VATS, because in VATS you're only using regular bullets, while here you're using special abilities that can only be used when you use the ATB freezes, okay? It actually goes above and beyond. Philly Buckeye cheered. He said, I know you generally don't play PC games, but when Bannerlord finally comes out where you play it, it'll be very popular and have a number of good chill times and gameplay for interaction, and you give under 100 hours of gameplay or more. I don't know. I literally know nothing about Bannerlord. I know that certain people have mentioned it in my streams over the past couple of years. If it ever comes out, people are interested, maybe I'll consider it. The thing is, though, I can't really play PC games, so... Alright. Now, let us go to talk about the things I didn't talk about yet. Let's start with EA. So EA actually technically had the soft open of E3. And what I mean by that, they did a digital presentation on Saturday. You know, Saturday was days. E3 floor opened on Tuesday. They were doing this on Saturday, so they were there super early. And, you know, they had certain people doing their digital conference. I'm not going to talk about the people who were at their conference and shit. I really don't care. But they talked about a few things. They started off talking about Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order. And, you know, I haven't really talked too much in detail about it. I talked about it because they did present it at the Microsoft press conference. This actually, for me, it looks like a really promising game. It looks like Star Wars The Force Unleashed, but a step further with more elaborate controls, more complex situations where you're fighting multiple enemies at once. And much like the Dark Souls series, these enemies can hurt you a ton. So it's going to be reliant not only on you dodging and using combat a la Dark Souls, but also using force powers and also utilizing your drone, okay? Your droid. In any other game, you'd call it a drone. In this game, because it's Star Wars universe, you call it a droid, right? I like Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order from what we've seen. Will it essentially be a game that holds up when you actually play it in November? I don't know. But it seems to me like it's a step in the right direction, and at least it's something with Star Wars that's not just a shooter like Battlefront. So that's a good thing. I'm actually very much looking forward to that. Outside of that, I don't think anything else at the EA Digital Conference was of any significance whatsoever, but I'm still going to talk about it. So they talked about how Apex Legends Season 2 will be released in early July. In fact, I think the date is July 2nd. There's going to be a new character called Watson, who's going to have unique abilities, much like all the other characters in the game. There's going to be a new gun released, and also the Mozambique is getting a rebalance because everyone jokes and complains. It's a running meme that the Mozambique is the worst gun in the game, so they're going to try to make the Mozambique better and more viable to use in actual combat, okay? And, I mean, I'm going to be very honest with all of you. Oh, they also teased that there's going to be a dragon or something in it, which makes no sense. There's no dragons in the whole fucking game. Why would there be a dragon out of nowhere, right? But in reality, when you really think about it, Apex Legends is kind of dead. Like, Apex Legends was a game that released at the right place, right time, right? It came out right before Anthem. So with all the anticipation for Anthem, it came out like 2 weeks before, and therefore it bought into the hype of people were getting excited for a new team-based shooter, but it was free. So everyone jumped on the bandwagon of playing this game for free. EA paid an incredible amount of money to streamers to stream this game release week, and got everyone watching it that way. So everyone was watching this new game that no one had ever heard of before. And I'll be very frank, if they didn't pay the top streamers to play it, I don't think anyone would have ever played Apex Legends. The whole game would have been glossed over and skipped, but EA spent a lot of money and ended up getting a lot of people playing their game because of it, okay? And I would say Apex wasn't a bad game, don't get me wrong. I actually liked the team-based, battle royale of the game, but all the hype died within 2 months. Why? Because the dev team didn't really push the game with new content. When you have a game that becomes white hot like that, you immediately got to jump on it and say, okay, we're going to improve this way. We're going to put tons of new characters. We're going to do a new map. We're going to do that. And here we are. The game came out in February, March, April, May, June, 4 months in. There's been no new additions whatsoever to the map. And there's one new character and one new gun. So, you know what I mean? How many times are you going to play this game? Look at Fortnite. When Fortnite became insanely popular, they're going to have seasons released with all new skins of characters, new weapons, things that are constantly changing the variables of the game and everything. That game did it right. Apex Legends didn't. Now, if you know the reason behind Apex Legends doing it the way they did it, they actually announced, we don't want to kill our dev team. Like a lot of these other studios, they overwork their dev teams to death, and we don't want to do that with Apex Legends, so we're going to scale back. And it's like, okay, but then don't expect much from your game in the future, because you got to strike when the iron is hot. And that iron was white hot when the game came out, and then they just kind of dropped the ball. So for me, they're like, Apex Legends is coming out with a new season 2. It's like, Apex Legends, who's played that in the last 2 months? You know what I mean? And this is coming from someone who was doing weekly streams of it with my buddies, and we were doing good, and we were winning matches and everything. And now it's like, I have like no desire. Like, maybe I'll check it out. Maybe I will do like one stream in early July to check out the new stuff. But do you really think that's enough to make people come back? No new map, no real new additions besides one new character and a gun. Like, you see what I mean? Like, I don't think it's enough to hold interest. So it's a shame, because the rest of EA's press conference was completely deflating. It was just FIFA, Madden, the usual sports stuff no one really cares about. And I've said this before, I'll say it again, but I'm not going to beat the dead horse. People don't watch E3 for sports. They don't. Those people who buy sports games buy them every year anyway because they're a fan of the sport. They don't care about what you improved, and they don't need to hear about it at E3. So those are completely wasted segments. Anthem, oh my god. I mean, all they said about Anthem is, we admit that the game's not so good, and we're going to continue to work on it, and that was it. Like, talk about the game they hyped for 3 straight fucking years. It came out to a complete fizzle, and now basically they barely even talked about it. It's like, wow, how depressing that the game is such a failure that they basically spend no time on it anymore. And that's really it. Like, nothing happened at EA's press conference besides Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order. There was nothing to speak of. It was a complete non-event. So it's not surprising that EA did not have a stage presence and a formal press conference this year. It would have been a complete waste of everyone's time and their money. So, EA, wow. How the mighty have fallen. Because, EA used to be the guys, they would come out there with a 2-hour stage show. We have a ridiculous amount of games to present. And now it's like they have got nothing. They have nothing to really show anymore. And it's like, wow, that is a ginormous change from the past. Again, maybe one of the signs of the times where E3 isn't really going to be a big thing anymore, okay? Italian Dolphin just cheered and said, exactly, Apex got boring and dated fast. They missed their opportunity to improve the game while it was white-hot popular, but left it alone and let it die. And that's exactly what happened. Sad, but true. Okay, continuing on. Now what I would like to talk about is the Nintendo Direct conference, which happened Tuesday morning. It was not a formal conference. It was a digital presentation. You want to talk about complete polar opposite night and day? EA versus Nintendo, that's completely different situation. Nintendo blew it out of the park, in my opinion. Like, Nintendo, announcement after announcement, update after update, all the information you wanted, solid release dates on many of the releases. Like, this was an amazingly good presentation for Nintendo. I rate this 2 thumbs up. If this were a stage conference, this probably would have won E3, but they didn't do a stage conference, they did a digital. Let's talk, because there was so much they covered. I took as many notes as I could, all right? So first of all, 2 new characters in Smash Brothers coming out. The hero from Dragon Quest, who will have a skin that's transferable among various different heroes for the Dragon Quest franchise, as well as Banjo-Kazooie. Now, a lot of people have wanted Banjo-Kazooie in Smash for years and years, so this is like total fan service. For people who love Smash, these are 2 huge announcements, and they're super stoked about that, okay? Luigi's Mansion 3 is coming out. This time, it actually doesn't take place in a mansion. It takes place in a hotel, which is funny. Why don't they call it Luigi's Hotel? I don't know. But, you know, that looks good. There's a Dark Crystal video game coming out. So many of you may be saying, what the hell is the Dark Crystal? The Dark Crystal was a Jim Henson movie from the 1980s. Unlike the Muppets and all that comedy stuff, it was a dark fantasy where there were elves, there were like these weird creatures that kind of looked like demons who were sucking energy out of the elves and using them as a power source to live. And it was weird, but it was fun. It was a good fantasy movie, in my opinion. It became kind of a cult classic. It wasn't like, oh my god, insanely budget making, you know, big blockbuster at the time. But over time, the appreciation of the actual puppetry and everything that was done in this movie grew and grew. And to this day, it's still a cult hit. So Netflix, of all things, is reviving the Dark Crystal. 30 plus years later, let's bring back the Dark Crystal, right? So it's coming back this year as a series on Netflix. And as they're doing this, they decided they're going to do a tie-in video game. Okay. So the Dark Crystal, it's a tactical-based game. And a lot of people are wondering exactly what it's going to be. Maybe I'll try it out. They said it is coming out this year, but they did not give a release date, which kind of sucks. I'd like to know when it's coming out to add it into my schedule. But whenever it comes out, maybe I'll check it out. Just because it's the freaking Dark Crystal. It's like such an oddity. That would be like saying, we're doing the Muppet Show video game tomorrow. Huh? I mean, okay, I guess that's pertinent. I don't know. But it might be good. You know, you never know. Another big announcement. So they had announced that previously, earlier this year, they were doing this, that Link's Awakening, which is the Game Boy series of Zelda, Legend of Zelda games, was going to be remastered for modern consoles. Well, guess what? It's coming out September 20th. So let me make sure that I put that on my calendar there. Yes, I did. September 20th, Link's Awakening for the Switch. And I'm all over that because I never played Link's Awakening. That was one of the mainstream Zelda games I completely missed out on, haven't played yet because it was on Game Boy. And I owned Game Boy Pocket. But when I got it, it was primarily for Pokemon. And if I remember correctly, Link's Awakening was an earlier game for Game Boy that I never owned. So this will be fun to play it for the very first time. Okay. Collection of Mana. This is a remaster collection of the original trilogy of Secret of Mana games. Secret of Mana 1 and 2, which had been released for Western audiences. And a new game called Trials of Mana, which is actually Secret of Mana 3, translated for the first time ever for Western audiences. That collection released immediately. Now, that's exciting to me, all right, because Secret of Mana is a great game. The ending sucks because you need to know how to beat it, and I went in and couldn't finish it with the remaster because I didn't have enough potions or whatever in the game. Sadly, with the remaster, they didn't fucking make it so that you can actually finish it. I got into a loop where it auto-saved, and I could never go back to get potions to restore my MP, so it was impossible to beat the fucking game. Isn't that nice? But it's still a good game. It's definitely still a good game. And, Secret of Mana 3, I've never played, so maybe that's something eventually I'll go back and check. But for now, I'm already in Final Fantasy IX and everything going on. But that's a good announcement for JRPG fans. Secret of Mana 3 hitting Western shores for the first time. That's pretty cool. Ni no Kuni is getting a remaster. Now, this for me is kind of a non-announcement, because I played Ni no Kuni as a new release back in 2012. And I really liked the game. It was one of my favorite games of the year. But some people didn't play it, and some people don't want to go play it on PS3. So this is a modern remaster of that game. For some people, that's exciting on the Switch, okay? Also, Resident Evil, following this vein of older games being re-released, Resident Evil 5 and 6 and The Witcher 3 all being remastered and will be released on the Switch relatively soon. None of those had solid release dates, but will be coming out soon. So, No More Heroes 3 actually is in development and will be coming out next year. A lot of people were wondering if it would ever happen because there was a game called Travis Touchdown's Revenge or something like that. And that came out in the last year, and I was interested in playing it, but people really weren't interested in seeing me play it, so I skipped it. But apparently it sold well enough that now there is a formal No More Heroes 3 that will be coming out in 2020, so that's always a good announcement, okay? Gaming Hobo has cheered 75 bits. Thank you, Gaming Hobo. And Spitzer just cheered and said, I see your point about E3 changing format, but I don't completely agree. Fact of the matter is we're at the end of this gen, and I reckon that many of the heavy hitters are being saved for the different expos of next year. Remember E3 2011? That was quite underwhelming in many regards, which is because the last gen was nearing its end. I mean, look at Microsoft. They had Gears and Halo, and that's it. No gameplay, nothing. Any exclusive they have brewing is probably 2 to 3 years out. You also may be correct, Spitzer. You may actually have hit the nail on the head. But for me, when you tell me E3 and you tell me Sony, who's always been there, isn't there, EA, who's always been there, isn't there, you know, the big dogs of E3 opted out, that tells me that they're now realizing that Nintendo's idea to not do E3 as a big conference and instead do digital stuff is working. And they're now realizing that it's just not a trade show anymore. E3 was, in essence, a trade show where only insiders of the media would get in to cover the new stuff. And now it's become an open convention. And I think that most game publishers don't like that anymore. They wanted a chance to present their product to an audience that is going to disseminate that information among the internet. And if you go there and it's all just people who paid big money to get tickets to go in there, you know what I mean? Instead of the people who are going to disseminate that information, maybe they feel the time investment and the money investment isn't worth it. In addition, last year, Sony dumped a ridiculous amount of money on this over-elaborate conference that flopped. Everyone said it was one of the worst of the show because it didn't have enough information and there was too much downtime and dead time to move a whole audience across the fucking street. It was a dumb idea. So maybe maybe E3 will still exist, but we're just going to get all digital conferences. And yes, you'll have a show floor where they're showing the stuff off from the digital conferences, but it's just all digital. There's no more stage shows. I think maybe the era of the stage show is dying. I'm just saying. Okay, let's continue on. Oh, there's a new Contra game coming out called Contra Rogue Core, September 24th. There hasn't been a new Contra game in quite some time. Contra is hard as shit. Like, it's really, like, balls to the wall difficult. So I'm curious to see if that's what the game will be or not. But that's coming out September 24th. Daemon X Machina, which is apparently a throwback to the Armored Core series, which was an earlier game franchise from Software, for those who don't know. Apparently is coming out on September 13th. Astral Chain, which is the new outing from Platinum Games, is coming out on August 30th. DJ Runo just cheers. At this point, I think Gamescom is way more important than E3. There you go. Mario and Sonic is getting a new game, Olympic game, for the new Olympics next year. It's called Mario and Sonic at the 2020 Tokyo Olympics, but it's coming out in 2019. So I guess it's coming out by the end of this year. For the first time ever, Mario and Sonic is going to have online play. Now, I've played many of the Olympic games. I played 2012 as well as 2016, both kind of couch co-op, all right? I take that back. I screwed that up. I played 2012 and 2014, the Winter Games, as couch co-op. 2016 and 2018, I completely skipped because I was like, why am I going to play these games? They're just couch co-op. So for the first time ever, they announced there will be online competitive play. Maybe I'll get it. Maybe I'll actually get Mario and Sonic at the Olympics and try to do online play with people who I know and then try to do randoms. You know what I mean? Like, that's actually exciting that I can play with you guys, the viewers, and we could have an Olympic showdown or whatever, okay? So that's smart. That's actually smart. Philly Buckeye cheered and said, Nintendo were unique and stood out by being the only ones to do a digital show. Now that so many companies are switching to digital shows, do you think things might switch back the other way and companies that actually do have live shows will stand out more? No, I think the digital shows, honestly, are more digestible. They move faster. You don't have a live audience screaming, woo, ah, bleh, and everyone complaining that they're overreacting to stuff. I think that the digital shows are better. I'm being honest. I actually do now. I think the digital shows, after I strongly criticized Nintendo for not showing up to E3 a couple years with show floor shows, I actually think now they actually maybe were ahead of the curve. And I think that what they've done has worked. And I think that other people are going to follow suit now. I do. Okay, Animal Crossing, New Horizons, a new Animal Crossing game for the Switch, is coming out March 20th, 2020. And I'm excited for that. Why? Because number one, I've never played an Animal Crossing game in my entire life. Never. So it'll be an exposure to a new series for me for the first time. And, as you guys know, I do chill streams now. I balance my mainstream game playthroughs with chill streams. And people are actually telling me that the game is like the ultimate chill stream game. So it could be a real cool opportunity for us to do fun stuff together on a chill environment, but also play a new game that a franchise I've never played before, right? Excuse me. Okay. In addition to that, there's also going to be a Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild sequel. Holy shit. Now, for me, Honestly, it's not that big of an announcement. Why? Because I kind of figured they were making a new Zelda game. I didn't necessarily know it was a Breath of the Wild sequel, but we know that Zelda, as long as Zelda makes money, they're going to keep making more. Breath of the Wild, for many people, was Game of the Year 2017. For me, it wasn't. It was one of the best games of the year, but definitely not Game of the Year. I thought Mario Odyssey was far better, but I still loved the game. So to hear they're making a direct sequel is pretty cool, and that's a good announcement for me. Okay. Couple shout outs. Italian Dolphin Charity said companies doing their own shows in the future rather than everyone announcing everything at the same time and competing. Companies can announce things when the time is best. Right. I agree. Like, I think that's the way to go. Strike when you feel the fire is hot, not, oh, we have to wait till E3 to announce everything, right? Cresta Angel did 100-bit cheers. Said, don't forget Trials of Mana is getting a remake. Oh, I already mentioned that. He says it's getting a remake early 2020. I thought that it was part of the collection. I guess I'm wrong. From what I was to understand, Collection of Mana had Trials of Mana in it. I guess I'm wrong. And it actually, Trials of Mana is coming out next year then. I guess I misread. But, okay. So there you go. So anyway, that was it. Now, you see, that was a Nintendo conference. Oh, my God. Like, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, like 13, 14 good announcements that are concrete things that at least some people care about. You know what I mean? Like, wow, that's the complete opposite, okay? The complete opposite of what EA did. Last Rambo just cheated, said, why not play the Smash DLC characters? It'll be nice to casually visit Smash Ultimate again, because I'm not spending another $1 on that game. That game was fun to play when it was new. That game was fun to play when there was a DLC character or two. At this point, the people who are playing it are hardcore competitive players. Very few casuals are still playing the game by this point. There's no point for me to go back. You know what I mean? I'm not going to care about how their balance is with these new characters. It's silly. And I'm certainly not dropping more money on it. So, that's why. Oh, Cresta Angel says, so Trials of Mana is part of the collection, but then they're actually completely remaking this game as a new game next year as well. Very confusing. But anyway, thank you for the clarification. All right. So now, I just want to talk a little bit about Call of Duty Modern Warfare. Reason being, honestly, they didn't really show that much at E3 of Call of Duty Modern Warfare. The first thing they said is the game is going to be realistic. We're taking out the unrealistic stuff, which means there's no zombie mode this year. Does that also mean no wall running, no double jumping, no summoning of drones, no insane overpowered garbage kill streaks, no magic walls, and fucking insane infinite ammo grenade launchers? And you know what I mean? Like, are we finally going to get a game that goes back to its roots? That seems like to be what they're catering for. All right, which is a good thing if that's what the game ends up being. Well, I guess we're going to find out. Okay? They also, I don't think there's a Battle Royale mode in it, but they announced that there will be the return of a mode that used to be a major part of Call of Duty, Spec Ops. So Spec Ops is a co-op mode where you can team up with friends or teammates or clanmates to take on waves of enemies and challenges, and that is returning in this year's Call of Duty Modern Warfare, okay? I remember doing it years ago with Howard, actually. Howard and I were doing it together. I think that was for Modern Warfare 2, I want to say. So, I guess we'll see. We'll see. You know, the game's coming out supposedly in October. We'll see as we get closer to the release what the game ends up being, but hopefully the game ends up being good. Okay? Captain Caveman has resubbed for 15 months. Thank you very much, Captain Caveman. I appreciate the support. Alright. So now, guys, what I want to do for the next segment, I want to do my rundown of the best, the meh, and the worst of E3 2019. Alright? We're going to start with the best, because I actually want to start on a high note. I don't want to be Mr. Negative. So I want to start on the high note and tell you about the things that I absolutely loved at E3 2019 and what I'm looking forward to in the future. Okay? So, this is in no particular order, by the way. No particular order. This is not, ranked from 10 to 1 or anything like that. This is just me telling you the things that I felt were really good about E3 2019. Alright? To start off, The Outer Worlds. This is a game that I had not seen any gameplay of up to now. It's made by Obsidian, the same game developer that made Fallout New Vegas. And for those who don't know, Fallout New Vegas I absolutely love. After playing Fallout 3, but having some strong criticisms of it, playing Fallout New Vegas actually opened the world up to be a little bit more viable. Not only were there more locations, more side content, more fun stuff, but it actually made things like melee builds way more viable to play. I like that a lot. and what they showed at E3 for Outer Worlds to me looks really good. If anything, I'm surprised not more people are talking about this game. Like, it seemed like it kind of got brushed under the rug. After being mentioned in the Microsoft press conference, I didn't really hear many people talking about it, which is surprising to me because I actually think that it's good. So we'll see. You know, that comes out in October. We're going to do release dates later. This is the whole gaming release date schedule right here. We're going to do that later, but I'm excited for that one. That's actually one of my biggest anticipated ones of the year, in my opinion. Okay? Transsexual Alien SJW just hit me $6. So what if someone donates the Smash Brothers Ultimate Expansion Pass to you? If you donated it to me, then yeah. I mean, obviously if it's free, I would go back and I would probably check out those DLC characters. But only if you did. But being, just a forewarning, more than likely it would end up being one stream per character and that's it. It's not going to end up me doing elaborate Smash content. I've been there, done that. I feel like the game is played out, and I'm not super excited to play it. Okay? So thank you for the $6 tip. That actually gets us up to $19 in tips so far today. Thank you very much, everyone who has contributed. Let's see if this actually fits. It does. It barely fits, but it fits. Okay. Philly Buckeye cheered and said Obsidian also made Knights of the Old Republic 2 and the Pillars of Eternity games, which were great. So there you go. All right. Another thing of the best of E3. For me, Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order. I think the game looks good. I think the game has potential. Will that potential be realized when the game actually comes out in November? I don't know. But from what they showed, a hybrid of action-based dodging and combat with the lightsaber and dodging enemy abilities, parrying enemy attacks, combined with using force powers to throw people around, pull things from the environment to help you, and the droid actually being able to heal you and using abilities in combat and stuff, seems pretty fun. They've never really done anything like that in Star Wars before. I would say the closest thing would have been Star Wars The Force Unleashed, but in that game, it didn't really have the element of like, risk. Like, when you play Dark Souls, you can die to any enemy. That's what it seems like in this game. Like, here goes the enemy with one of those repulsor staves that's supposed to be like an anti-Jedi repulsor staff. It actually makes you feel, oh god, this guy could be a formidable force, so I need to really strategize. How do I take out the little guys around who are sniping me while I fight this guy too? It just seems like a different take on Star Wars, and I like that a lot. So we'll see how it comes to fruition. But for me, that looked really good. Okay. Okay, continuing on. Cyberpunk 2077. I think we already, from what we had seen previously, looked really good. But the addition of Keanu Reeves to the cast of the game, I think, is a positive. Keanu is very popular right now because of the John Wick series. And the fact that he actually is excited to be part of the game. If you actually watch not only the press conference, the Microsoft press conference, when it was revealed that Keanu Reeves was part of the game, but then they interviewed him after. He was like, wow, like, I'm so impressed with the fans, and I was excited because I could actually feel their energy on stage, and I didn't expect that. Like, that's cool. Like, he's now, like, pumped to be a part of the game, and that's cool, man. So I think not only is it cool that he's part of the game as a main character, but we already knew Cyberpunk was going to be good, but now it's just something additional added into it. I'm excited for it. Next year, we'll see how it turns out. I hope it turns out well. All right, you know, it's been a while since CD Projekt Red put anything out, so that's a good thing. This one was a surprise for me. Okay, 12 minutes. So for those of you who don't know what I'm talking about, this was one of the games that was very briefly presented in a press conference. I think it was the Microsoft press conference, and it actually really impressed me. So, top-down view of an apartment. There's a man and a woman sitting at a little table, eating, and all of a sudden the woman pulls out a present and says, I have a surprise gift for you. Can you guess what it is? And the man says, it's baby clothes. You're pregnant and you're about to tell me in a special surprise announcement. However, in just a few moments, a man is going to come to the door who wants to hurt both of us. You need to tell me what really happened with your dad years ago. If you actually were involved in his death, or if he did die accidentally like you told everyone. Because this man is going to be accusing you of murdering your own father. And if we don't get to the bottom of this in the next few minutes, we're going to die. I know because I've lived through this before. What the fuck? Like, huh? What a premise. So, the woman gets up and is like, my God, is this a prank? What are you talking about? What's going on? Don't you trust me? I've told you that what really happened. And the guy's just like shaking her like, you need to tell me the truth right now. Hurry up, we're out of time. Then there's a knock at the door. Police, open up. We're here to help. And the woman's like, police, who called the police? Did you call the police? He's like, that's not the police, it's someone lying. You gotta tell me right now the truth. The door gets kicked in, and it's a guy who looks like a paid hitman, and he comes after the woman, but the man interjects, they get into a fight, the man gets killed, and then all of a sudden the whole scenario resets. The guy gets up, and the woman walks in and sits and says, oh, it's time for dinner, honey. And the whole thing resets, almost like a premise of like Groundhog Day. If you don't know, if you've never seen the movie, it's a movie where someone's trapped in an infinite loop of a day that happens over and over until he finds a way to fix the day and make it like the perfect day, and then he gets to live on the rest of his life. So that's pretty cool. It's a very, very interesting premise. I mean, talk about suspense, thriller, act, like all kinds of stuff that's going to be involved. Now, the reason the game's called 12 minutes is because apparently the entire plot of the game is 12 minutes long. But you're going to have to countlessly replay it over and over and over to see every scenario, to figure out how can you get the information you need to solve the situation and find out exactly what is really going on. How many times will you have to replay the game to finally get to the scenario you want? And are there multiple? I'm assuming there's tons of bad endings, right? So imagine all these bad ending scenarios. I like the premise of the game, and it seems very, very interesting to me. But at the same time, will it get repetitive and frustrating? Will you get stuck and not know what to do and die a million times and never be able to find the outcome? Or on the flip side of that, could this be a game that you get lucky and you figure out the right scenario within a few tries and you've beaten it within an hour, and now you're like, damn, I bought a game that was only an hour long, when in reality you could have kept messing up and replaying it for hours on end. You just got lucky. You see what I mean? This seems like a very original premise for a game, but I don't necessarily know if the game's going to hold up as a full-fledged game. It's an indie game, and it doesn't seem like it's going to be super expensive, but the whole idea is something unique to me. And I'm very interested in it. I don't know when it's coming out. It didn't have a release date, but that piqued my interest when they did that presentation. I was like, wow, I actually really want to see how this game turns out, okay? Okay, continuing on. Ghostwire Tokyo, the new IP from Shinji Mikami, the maker of Resident Evil and The Evil Within. Making a new franchise is always a good thing, especially from a tried and true game developer like him. The sad thing is they didn't show any gameplay, and what they did show was incredibly interesting. People in Tokyo, first of all, the environment of Tokyo was beautiful, and it looks like they're going to recreate Tokyo, you know, urban Tokyo, to a T with the way that people live and the environments and the culture, and everything looks very realistic. And people are disappearing, and there's ghosts and demons showing up. So then a guy shows up who's dressed like a ninja with a bow and arrow, and he's shooting like arrows at the ghosts and fighting the ghosts. And the fact that this game is not going to be classic survival horror at all, but a different take. He's actually says going to be an action-based horror game. Honestly, it almost makes me feel like, how can I explain? So let's talk a little bit about the history of survival horror with Resident Evil and The Evil Within. Resident Evil started off as a fixed camera, tank control, resource management style game. Then over the years with Resident Evil 4, it evolved into, even though it still had some of that, more of an action-based game. And then Resident Evil 5 and 6 are basically action games. There's really almost no resource management. So Resident Evil 6 is a run-and-gun shooter with zombies and monsters in it, okay? So Resident Evil evolved over the years to be something different. Then people didn't like it, and it reverted back to its survival horror roots for Resident Evil 7, okay? The Evil Within 1 is a hybrid. There is definitely survival horror elements in there, but it is a run-and-gun shooter as well. And yes, there's horror elements in it, but the fact that the game is incredibly linear, I feel takes away a little bit from that horror element. Evil Within 2, I thought was much better than 1. You put you into an open world environment in certain segments of the game. It had optional things that were really fucking scary, like the ghost that chased you around was scary as shit. And also had more of a survival horror element to it. But Evil Within 1 sold way more than Evil Within 2. So actually becoming a more survival horror game somehow made the game sell less. Figure that one out, right? So all that being... Whoa, almost knocked my thing down. All that being said, Ghostwire Tokyo being an action-based horror game might be a good thing. Maybe people now do like the action-based games more. Maybe the real reason people didn't like Resident Evil 5 and 6 was because of the name. Not because of the game, because of the name. I was one of the people who defended Resident Evil 6, and I said, you know what? I really like the game. No, it's not classic survival horror Resident Evil, but at face value, that game has a ton of content, great production values, really good run and gun gameplay, fun co-op gameplay. I actually really enjoyed Resident Evil 6, while most people panned it and said, it's not Resident Evil, so I hate it. I liked it. So maybe making a game of that kind. Oh, he's going to fight ghosts in Tokyo. A realistic Tokyo setting, but you're going to be fighting demons and ghosts. Action-based combat could be a really good idea. And with Shinji Mikami behind the reins, a guy who really knows how to create horror and chills, I'm sold. And it looked to me like it's going to be solid. Even though they showed zero gameplay at E3, I was 100% sold and on board. Okay? Okay. Continuing on. Oh, hold on. Some shout-outs to do here. Okay. We've got DJ Runo cheered and said 12 minutes, unfortunately, is a game that was soon as you watch someone play it, would you want to buy it yourself? There's no reason anymore. I mean, I guess you're right. You could be right, although maybe if that person only plays it till they beat it, maybe you want to see even more scenarios that you can unlock. I'm sure there's a ridiculous amount of outcomes, right? So I wonder what all those outcomes could possibly be. You know, I guess we'll see when the game comes out. But I agree with you. Maybe more fun to watch someone play it than play it yourself. Or if you're going to play it yourself, then don't watch someone play it. Okay? Dolphin Splash cheered. He said, could you put a game schedule on your Twitch page that shows which upcoming games you'll be playing and when they're released? I guess what I could do, I guess I could put a panel on my Twitch page and just type, because I'm not going to be able to create a picture of it, sadly, because I don't have any editing software to do that kind of shit anymore. But what I could possibly do is just type it up and say, here's the upcoming releases for June, here's the upcoming releases for July, and these are the ones that I'm interested in covering and more than likely will be streaming. I guess I could do that. That's a good suggestion. In fact, let me grab a pen. Hold on, guys. What I would like, guys, and I did this with previous years too when I did my E3 coverage. If you guys want to give me suggestions of either things I don't mention on the show or things that I could do to improve my content, by all means, I'm all ears. I'm going to take notes. So, schedule on Twitch page. That is a really good suggestion, Dolphin Splash. Thank you for that. So I think I'm more than likely, since today now I'm going to have a concrete idea of the games I'm looking at between now and the end of the year, I maybe will add a new panel to my Twitch page that's a rough schedule of games I'll be covering. Sounds good. Thank you very much for that. And in fact, there's one other thing I wanted to add. Here we go. One other thing I wanted to add here. Okay. So remember, I want to talk about it when I get to some of the other countdowns. Okay. All right, hold on. The Last Rambo just cheered. He said, Cadence of Hyrule is coming out tomorrow on Switch. It's an indie collaboration with Nintendo and looks amazing. Yeah, I didn't really mention it. It was in the Nintendo Direct. What Cadence of Hyrule is a rhythm game with Zelda music, okay? So it's really cool, and it sounds like a great premise. Sadly, I can't play it, because if I do, YouTube, I swear to God, will just strike the fuck out of me. You used official Nintendo music, you know? I almost guarantee it. I almost guarantee it. Now, maybe not. And Nintendo has been very lax this last year. They stopped claiming stuff, but maybe it would. So really, honestly, with all the stuff that I'm already planning on doing, I'm not sold on it. Maybe something long-term I would do, but I'm not really sold on Cadence of Hyrule, okay? Philly Buckeye Charity says, your streams would be a lot better if I wore silly hats. Silly hats, he says. Okay, let's continue on with my best of E3 countdown. Up next, Doom Eternal. Doom Eternal, which is the new Doom game, obviously. By the way, what is that? That's the stereo headset adapter for the Xbox One controller. I used it once ever when I was playing Sea of Thieves because I wanted to use a microphone with while playing the game online, and I never used it for anything ever again. Luckily, I bought this at the launch of Xbox One, so I didn't have to spend money on it now, but it sat around forever. That's what that was. It's sitting over here for like a year. Anyway. Alright. Doom Eternal. Looks great. And if anything, it looks like it's Doom 2016 with even more added stuff. I distinctly saw during the actual gameplay that Bethesda showed. And the reason I emphasize that is because there was so little gameplay at E3 this year. It was mostly trailers and the like. But during the actual gameplay they showed, it was fast-paced, hard-hitting, smash-mouth FPS gameplay like we've come to know and love from Doom. And it looks like there's new weapons. There was some kind of a chain gun and stuff that I distinctly saw that was unique and different and new. The game seems more colorful. Like they instead, one of the major criticisms of Doom 2016. What the fuck? Oh, it's the insert. Throw that over there. One of the main criticisms of Doom 2016 was that the game relied too much once you got to hell on flame and lava, and it was either too brown or too red. Now there's it's very colorful from what I've seen. Okay, even the weapons are very colorful. There's explosions and effects everywhere. So that looks good. Plus, there's a lot more platforming now in the game from what I've seen. Like, it seems to me like there's going to have, a lot of double jumping and grabbing and grappling and crawling up stuff. And that, I don't know. Like, I don't want to say it's good or bad. Some people may like that. Some people may not. If you're into more classic FPSs, you don't really care about platforming that much. But modern gamers maybe want more. I want more action. I want more movement. I don't want it to just be on a plane where I'm strafing around stuff. So I can understand why some people might want that. Also, I absolutely loved the multiplayer of Doom 2016. I thought it was very, very, very fun. So to be able to play a Doom multiplayer again is going to be excellent. So I'm very excited. Doom Eternal looks great. Up next, on the best of E3 2019, Watch Dogs Legion. And this, again, actual gameplay shown off during the Ubisoft press conference. And the game looks like an original concept. You could control every NPC in futuristic London. Every NPC can play differently. You could have one that's young, so they're more action-based combat, where they're doing hand-to-hand fighting, pulling out a gun and doing third-person shooter cover-based shooting. Then you could be someone who's more into hacking and tech. Maybe they drive and they use drones and stuff to do their stuff. Then you've got the elderly grandmother who can't really do much at all, so instead she's using a spider drone to crawl through corridors and hack things and electrocute people, and then she pulls out a taser and tases a dude in the face. You see what I mean? Like, the variety of gameplay, I think, could actually make this game really fun. But I do have to say I am kind of skeptical, because how many types of NPC can there be? My prediction for this game will have archetypes, okay? So there will be the elderly person, the person who drives and uses drones, the person who does hand-to-hand combat, maybe a person who does, like, parkour, and maybe one other character. So there'll be, like, 5 archetypes that you can use. And yes, you can maybe recruit infinitely in the city of London, but they're only going to have 5 kinds of gameplay in the whole game. Also, I doubt that there's going to be a ton of unique stories. Maybe there'll be, like, 5 backstories for each archetype, and that'll be it. You see what I mean? They say, oh, you can infinitely recruit everyone in London. How the fuck could you have ever finished the game then? You know what I mean? Like, how many people are in London? How many million? How could you have that be a realistic thing? I don't think it is. I think that what they're doing is they're over-exaggerating the capabilities of what the game will actually be. Still, even on face value, it sounds good to me. What I just hope is the game doesn't become a grind where it's just the same kind of missions over and over because there's only 5 archetypes. At the same time, the premise itself is original, and much like I said with Ghostwire Tokyo, where you have an accurate representation of the culture and design of Tokyo, we're going to get to play a game in London. That's going to be sweet. Modern day London, well, actually it's supposed to be futuristic London, but still being able to be in a different culture and, you know, being able to experience that is going to be really neat, and I'm actually looking forward to that a lot. Okay? All right. Up next, in the best of E3 rundown, Final Fantasy VII Remake. Yes, Final Fantasy VII. We finally got concrete info about this remake that's coming out next year. The first piece of pertinent info, it's not one game. It's going to be at least 2, if not 3 separate games, and each game coming out is going to be just as long as any other Final Fantasy. Holy shit. That's huge news. We found out it's coming out in March. Holy shit, that's huge news. But if anything, the thing I liked, again, real gameplay of the game, when they showed off in the Square Enix press conference, playing with Cloud and Barrett, showing how it's going to work. Not only are you going to have action-based combat, much like Kingdom Hearts and Final Fantasy 15, but you're going to have this new ATB time freeze system, where you can now, once you have your ATB gauge charged, either use a special ability or cast a magic spell or use healing items, etc. I like the fact that They showed off a boss fight and showing that these boss fights are going to be incredibly lengthy and detailed and robust with multiple stages and things going on. Not only is it an action RPG, it's a puzzle game too, because you have to solve how do you fight these bosses, right? Not every boss is going to be a different scenario. What's the weakness? How do I stagger the boss so we can stun them and down them and do massive damage? It needs to be said, the graphics are great. At least if the game looks like they're showing, the graphics look absolutely outstanding. I'm so happy I have a PS4 Pro right now, because I really want to experience this game at the best graphical quality that I can for my streams. And being on a PS4 Pro, I feel is going to give that experience. So I'm very excited about that. And that's good. So, and also the fact that, so we're going to get only the Midgar saga, which if in the real game of Final Fantasy VII, the Midgar saga, if I'm remembering correctly, is about 8 to 10 hours, and then you move on to the rest of the game, which is open world and everything. They're going to take 8 to 10 hours and turn it into like 20 to 40 hours. Now, you might say, well, that's because they're going to add in tons of story, tons of new dialogue that wasn't in the original game, tons of new areas and fights. Maybe. And if they do, 2 thumbs up. But what I'm skeptical of is, you saw how long that boss fight was. You know, that was a boss fight that in the original game, that's 3 minutes. You can beat that boss, it's over. They fought that boss for 10 plus minutes before they fought it. And by the way, if you didn't notice, there was time lapse. It wasn't even real time. There were time lapses during the boss fight. So, that being said, what's going to happen in the game is every fight going to be like that? Oh, every fight's scripted, and every fight is a certain puzzle where you have to figure out how to attack these guys and survive. And you know what I mean? Like, is every fight going to be 5 to 15 minutes long? Will the game sadly feel more like a grind because the combat is so lengthy, and it just, you know what I mean? Like, in an RPG, a turn-based RPG, yes, there's a lot of grind, but those fights can go quick. Once you know, okay, this enemy's weak to this, do this, just keep doing it, and you can blow through those fights, you know what I mean? But in this game, it seems like maybe that's not what's going to happen. Every fight's going to be like this unique situation. And if that's the case, will the combat become a chore almost? I don't know. I guess we're going to find out. All right, we're going to find out in March. But from what they presented, the game looks really good, and I'm excited for it in March. Okay. Marvel's Avengers. I knew nothing about this game whatsoever before they presented it at E3 at the Square Enix press conference. From what they showed, it looks interesting. If anything, the one major criticism, the graphics didn't look great to me. Like, I would say that the graphics were kind of but the game's not done. So maybe they'll have a time to polish those graphics and make them look better. But for the very little bit of gameplay segment they showed on the bridge where the Avengers are fighting, you know, you have Hulk super jumping, grabbing a tank, kicking someone while he's holding it, then throwing the tank and everything blows up. You've got Iron Man flying around, shooting his repulsor blast. You've got Thor using his hammer to shoot lightning and stuff. And then you got Black Widow flipping and doing hand-to-hand combat. It looked good, but it really didn't showcase that much. But the fact that they are making a mainstream Marvel Avengers game that does not look like shit, and what I mean by that is Captain America the First Avenger, Thor and you know, his game, which I can't remember what the byline was. But, you know, I played 2 or 3 of these Marvel tie-in games during the early days of the Marvel movies, and those games were not very good. So, seeing that they're actually putting a ton of time and effort into a game because they know that Marvel movies have, and the MCU is so ginormous and such a moneymaker that they should really work to make a mainstream game that's going to be good, is an excellent thing. In addition, the fact that they're claiming there's not going to be any nickel and diming, no loot boxes, no DLCs. Everything for this game will be free over time, and they're going to add new heroes and new stages over time. That sounds really good to me. One thing that I'm hoping, though, that doesn't mean they release the game bare bones. Oh, you buy the Avengers in May of 2020, and the game's only 8 hours long, but we're going to add 12 more hours of content over the course of the year. I hope that's not the case. I hope you buy a robust, complete game at launch, and then if they want to add more content down the line, they do, okay? But it does look good. Like, to me, I was like, wow, they're doing a good job. The plot is interesting. It's a unique and interesting plot that, you know, it's different from the movies. I like that. I like that this game is not the movies. Let's do something separate and different and original. I like that. And I would almost go as far to say this. I don't know if this is the truth, but if this game is successful, let's say this game sells well and it's good, it's rated well, they could potentially create a Marvel gaming universe, an MGU, as opposed to an MCU. And now you could have game studios working on games that tie into a gaming universe, and that could become just as big as the movie universe. But we have to see what happens. This is the initial entry. All right. Well, let's see how it goes. If this goes well, now they can branch out, right? The other thing is, if you guys aren't aware, the X-Men are now coming to the MCU. So with X-Men under their umbrella, now they can even cross over to X-Men, Spider-Man. You know what I mean? Like, they're going to have all these properties. They could all become one, which could be pretty neat. I guess we'll see what happens. I'm excited for the future when it comes to this stuff. Okay? Shout out to Master Shake, who tipped me $1. He said, let us not forget the man, the myth, the legend, Matt Booty. Yeah, the man with the most unfortunate name of E3, Matt Booty, who was part of the Microsoft press conference, and he garnered more laughs and snickers than anything else of the entire E3. Okay, and the last thing, the absolute last thing in my best of E3 countdown, Link's Awakening remaster and the announcement of a Breath of the Wild sequel. Because I like Zelda. The fact that there's a new Zelda coming out this year that's not necessarily new, but it's a remake of a very, very old game is kind of cool. And the fact that they are going to make a direct sequel to the last Zelda is also a really good announcement. So those are big, 2 thumbs up, good stuff from me. Okay? So that is my best of. Let's do a quick rundown. Outer Worlds, Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order, Cyberpunk 2077 now having Keanu Reeves, 12 Minutes, Ghostwire Tokyo, Doom Eternal, Watch Dogs Legion, Final Fantasy VII Remake, Marvel's Avengers, The Link's Awakening Remake, and Breath of the Wild getting a sequel. That's my best stuff of E3 2019. DJ Runo Charity says Cyberpunk is already 30% discount in key shops. PC gaming's weird. Now, ladies and gentlemen, let us now go and move on to the meh of E3. What I mean by this countdown, this is stuff that had major potential to be good, but I feel fell flat on its face, and or was stuff that was kind of shoved down our throat. That wasn't necessarily bad, but it's kind of like, why should I get excited about this? Okay? So let's start off with a game that during the entire time during this press conference that I was watching, the preview of it looked good to me. I was excited. I was like, oh, this looks interesting. It's a horror game. You're in the woods with a dog, and the dog is tracking these weird anomalies and things that weird shit's happening to you in the woods. There's a cabin. There's creepy stuff going on all around you. And on its face value, it actually looks like it could be a pretty good horror-style game that's entertaining and fun. And then when they finally announced the game is Blair Witch, I'm kind of like, huh? Like, talk about a property, a movie property that's like, you're 20 years too late. Blair Witch came out in the late 90s, the original Blair Witch Project. And at the time, this was a movie that actually was groundbreaking. It was the very first mainstream found footage movie. They weren't expecting Blair Witch Project to make good money. It made an insane amount of money. It was the first real mainstream horror movie that was found footage. Oh, these were just some kids in the woods, and there's the documentation of what's going on in the woods with the camera or whatever. Okay? Incredibly low budget, but made a ridiculous amount of money. It was very popular. Then they made a sequel that they tried to make a big budget Hollywood horror film, and it flopped horribly and was a terrible fucking movie. Then in 2016, out of nowhere, they decided to reboot the franchise, and the movie flopped horribly. So why on earth, in modern day, right, would you make a Blair Witch game? It just seems to me like they could have named the game anything else and not had the Blair Witch tie-in, and I would have been more interested. But like, almost having the Blair Witch tie-in seems to be like actually lessening the game from what it potentially could be the standout original title. You see what I mean? So for me, it looks like a good game, but because of the Blair Witch tie-in, I was just kind of like, I don't know. I guess we'll have to see. Now, here's another one. A game, on face value, if you heard that one of the most cripplingly difficult but also virally popular games from the NES era was being rebooted for modern audiences, would you get excited? But then when I show you the visuals of the game, and they look incredibly like weird and distorted, hand-drawn, and it almost looks more like Castle Crashers than anything else. You're kind of, thrown off. I, of course, am talking about the Battletoads reboot. There's a new Battletoads game in development that's supposed to be coming out within the next year or so, and the artwork just looks fucking bizarre. Like, it looks like a combination of Invader Zim and Castle Crashers artwork. Now, not to say that that's bad artwork. Like, I liked Castle Crashers, but Battletoads already had a look to it. And when they did this, they basically made it look so different that now the game just looks kind of weird to me. And I wasn't the only one. People were completely agreeing. They're like, wow, this game just looks weird. The game, or oh, wow, Battletoads, they're playing the music. Dun, dun, dun. You get excited. Then they show the gameplay. You're like, huh? Like, what? This looks kind of off. I guess the best comparison here, do you guys remember Super Street Fighter 2 Turbo HD Remix? When they announced they were remaking Super Turbo, one of the best Street Fighter games of all time for modern consoles with redrawn HD artwork, right? But then when the artwork is actually released, a lot of people were like, I don't really think that the artwork fits the game and it doesn't look so good. So that kind of is like reminding me the same thing. They redrew a hand-drawn artwork. I almost wish they would have just done 3D models. I think 3D models would have been better than what they did with this hand-drawn artwork. And so, even though I'm excited for the game, I like the idea of rebooting Battletoads for a modern audience. Yes, that's good. But with this art style, it's kind of like, yeah, I'm very skeptical. Okay? Okay. Continuing on. Another thing that Microsoft absolutely was pushing down our throats during their press conference, their Xbox press conference, but I'm not sold on at all. The Xbox Game Pass Ultimate. All right. So there's already an Xbox Game Pass, and what that Game Pass does is allows you to play all of the first-party Microsoft titles as well as certain games under a subscription-based pricing on the Xbox One console. There's also a new Xbox Game Pass for the PC. So if you're on PC and you want to play the Microsoft exclusive games plus certain games, and I believe that the ones they announced was like, God, I'm trying to remember now. Metro Exodus was one. And it's like there was a small handful of games that are included under Game Pass on PC. So that also launched. Now, also separately, Microsoft charges you to play their games online with the Xbox Live subscription service, Xbox Live Gold. So what they announced was that they're now going to have this combined package where if you pay one flat fee a month, you get Xbox Game Pass for Xbox One, Xbox Game Pass for PC, and Xbox Gold, all for one price. It's all inclusive. All right. But the reason I'm skeptical, if you own a gaming PC, why the hell do you own an Xbox One? Because most Microsoft exclusive games are also on PC. It's unlike Sony. Sony exclusives for PS4 usually don't get ported right away, if ever. I mean, I could still name Bloodborne, God of War. Those games are still exclusive to PS4. You see what I mean? You need a PS4 to play them. So if you sold me a Sony Game Pass with all the Sony exclusives, that makes perfect sense to me. But if you already own a gaming PC, you already have access to the Microsoft's exclusives. So why do you need a Game Pass that also includes those games on Xbox One? Why would you even own an Xbox One if you have a high-end gaming PC? You see what I mean? Like, for me, I don't think it makes any sense. Maybe there's someone out there who's such a Microsoft fan. I absolutely want it on everything. I want to get everything for one price. Okay, but is this really the mainstream audience for Microsoft? I don't think so. I think that maybe you're talking about a small niche of people who will benefit from this all-inclusive ultimate pass, but they're pushing it like it's the bee's knees. Everyone needs it. It's almost like they're trying to say, if you own an Xbox One, it doesn't matter if you have a PC, get the ultimate pass anyway. But I don't benefit from it. I don't get anything on the PC because I don't play PC games. It just seems really weird. And one of the things that they actually said was if you have the ultimate pass, you can play Gears of War 5 4 days early. That it comes out for Friday for people with ultimate pass and Tuesday of the next week for normal people. So you see what I mean? Now there's like they're really pushing for you to get their subscription service even if you don't need it. And it seems frustrating. Okay? So for me, that was meh. Like I maybe for some people, maybe for some really niche group of people, this is a ginormous, amazing announcement and it blows you away and you're freaking out because you can get everything under one pricing tag. For me, it's kind of like if you already have a PC, why are you getting Ultimate Game Pass? It doesn't make any sense. By the way, online play for PC games is free. They don't charge you. So you don't need to pay for Xbox Live Gold because you already got online play for free when you bought the game on PC. So why do you need this pass, this Ultimate Pass? Okay. Continuing on. A game that a lot of people seem super hyped for, but I was meh. Dragon Ball Z Project Z. It's a action RPG hybrid game that you're going to be fighting like generic enemies like dinosaurs and, you know, what do they call them? Cybermen and the clones of Cell and generic enemies, but you'll also be doing big boss fights against the big main fights in the game, like, you know, Nappa and Vegeta, and I'm sure they're going to have freaking, the Ginyu Force and all of the minions of Frieza, and then the Frieza fight, and then you're going to fight the androids, you're going to fight all Cell's incarnations, and then later on you're going to, you know what I mean? It's going to keep going on and on. So I understand how it could work as an RPG. I get that. Okay, I get it. But for me, we've now sadly have Dragon Ball Z oversaturation. And what I mean by that is there have been too many games of Dragon Ball Z released of the last few years to care anymore. Like, we had Dragon Ball Xenoverse 1 and 2. We had mobile games that were very widely popular of Dragon Ball, like Dragon Ball Z Dokkan Battle. Now there's another one as well that came out in the last year or so. And now we've got Dragon Ball Fighters. So amongst all these games, right, all these freaking, all these games that are already Dragon Ball Z, and by the way, they're all the Dragon Ball Z plotline. The same story that we've heard since the 1980s is the same story we've heard. It hasn't changed. It's the same story over and over, retold a million times. It's hard for me to get excited about the game that's going to be the same fucking thing. You see what I mean? Like, if this were an original game... Oh, it's Dragon Ball RPG, but it's a completely original plot line. We're going from the ground up, creating original characters. We're having characters come back for spin-offs. And no, it's not canon, but it's going to be an original gameplay with fun story. Okay, but, oh, it's just the Dragon Ball Z plotline again. I don't care. You know what I mean? Like, and the thing is, I know that more than likely if I played it, it would be fun to play and entertaining, and an audience may like it, okay? But for me, the fact that they're just going to be doing the same plotline again. By the way, I just played Dragon Ball Xenoverse 1 and 2, and in both of those games, we relived all the classic moments of Dragon Ball Z. Now, again, we're going to do it again, you see? And it was funny because a lot of people seemed hyped, and they were asking me why I'm not hyped for this, and I'm not talking about it that much, and I'm like... It doesn't seem like a big announcement to me. It just seems like a game that maybe will be for Dragon Ball hardcore fans, and everyone else will be like, meh, I don't know, maybe I'm wrong. Okay. Okay. Continuing on. Vote Democrat did a 222-bit cheer. He said, Microsoft wants you to subscribe or get the fuck out. That sounds like someone else I know. But, yeah, you're absolutely right. Maybe they're following suit with one of their favorite streamers of all time. Thank you, Vote Democrat. You're the top cheerer. Top cheerer of the day. Thank you very much, sir. Sadly, it looks like that pushed us over. Oh, shit, it did. Look. I wonder if I can shrink this a little bit. Hold on. Fuck. Alright, shrank it a little bit, and now it fits. Okay. Alright, continuing on, guys. Oh, hold on. Spitzer just cheered. He said, this is exactly why I've skipped Xbone this gen. I got a PS4 Pro, gaming PC, and all the last-gen consoles. I'm fucking covered. I see no reason to buy the Xbone whatsoever. Every exclusive is missing out on its coming to PC anyway, like Master Chief Collection. Microsoft shit the fucking bed this gen, and unless they come out with some fat exclusives in the next 2 years, they're fucked. Scarlet doesn't seem appealing either. Halo Infinite, what's to say it doesn't come to PC? Fair enough. Okay. The next thing that was kind of meh for me is something that also was meh for me when the last installment of this franchise came out, Gears of War 5. It's weird because Microsoft seems to be hyping the fuck out of Gears of War 5. I mean, a massive, like, 20 minutes of their Xbox presentation was dedicated to Gears of War 5. And not to say it looks bad, it certainly doesn't look bad. I remember they highlighted not only the story is going to be the longest and most robust story of all time, but also they're going to have new multiplayer modes and stuff added in. But for me, like, Gears of War has been there, done that. You know what I mean? Like, they're not doing anything revolutionary anymore. We know what to expect whenever we play a Gears of War game. And ever since the franchise got sold officially to Microsoft after Gears of War 3, and Epic Games moved on to do other stuff, the Gears of War franchise with the Coalition just isn't very good. Gears of War 4 was very, very underwhelming. I thought it was okay. And when I played it, I thought the plot was alright. and everyone who watched me play it hated it. They were like, this is boring, play another game. I'm like, oh, guys, come on, it's not that bad. And people are like, no, it's not as good as the last 3. It's not the same studio. You can tell. The best description I can say, Gears of War now feels like fans of Gears of War making a fan service game of Gears of War. It's not as good as the original. It doesn't have the true spirit of the original. It just feels like fans continuing the plot line, and that's not a good thing. So, for me, Gears 5 is like, I don't even know if I should play it, and I leave myself open to you guys. We're going to go through the schedule later. We're going to go through the gaming schedule for the rest of the year. All right. Do you guys want to see me play Gears 5? I'm very interested in your opinion. Or do you think this should be a 100% complete skip? Because, I don't know. All right. James the Beastie cheered. He said, Ubisoft should have come out on stage with who's ready to see some shitty repetitive games that we made. And DJ Runo cheered. He says, I would like to have another Red Faction game. Splinter Cell would be nice too. Okay. We got a mixed bag here in chat. Some people are saying play it, and some people are saying skip it. It's kind of a 50-50 mix right now over the feedback I'm getting. See, and it's interesting. Now it's money better spent elsewhere. Yes, play it. See, it's a mix. So I get the feeling some people would like it and some people wouldn't. Kind of like Gears 4. So that's what I kind of meant. I'm on the fence. Okay. One thing that absolutely was shoved down our throat the entire E3, cloud gaming. Whether it was Google Stadia hyping up their new device, whether it was Microsoft announcing their own streaming service with the xCloud that's going to happen, whether it was Bethesda saying they're redesigning their game engines from the ground up with the new Orion system so they'll be easily streamable, everyone was saying game streaming is the future. Okay, gameplay streaming is the future. I no longer will need to own a console. Oh, by the way, Microsoft announced a new console at their gaming convention. So isn't that mixed messages? We're designing all our games to work over the cloud, but by the way, here's a new console for you to buy. It didn't even make sense. Like, it seems like even the companies working on cloud gaming aren't 100% confident in it and are still making new hardware. Which, if the cloud gaming works, we don't need hardware. Instead, we're just going to buy the controller and whatever device, whether it's a mobile device, a television, a smart TV, that we're going to stream these games on. We don't need the hardware, so why does the Scarlet even exist? You see what I mean? And we already know that the PlayStation 5 also is in development. So obviously, Sony and Microsoft are not confident with cloud gaming yet. Apparently, Google is, where they're doing Google Stadia, and they're firmly backing it, and they've already announced the line of titles that are going to be out for it. For me, when I see mixed messages like that, okay, that for me makes me skeptical. And it makes me basically say, I don't know if I should trust in it. Because when you got, oh, we're doing it, oh, by the way, we're still doing this, that's kind of weird to me. Now, truth be told, maybe what this is being more, what's the word? I don't want to say defensive. I want to say, like, maybe they want to cover all their bases, because many years ago, when Microsoft did their big E3 conference for the Xbox One before it launched, and they said, no more game discs, can't trade in games, online internet connection required, connect, you must buy with the console. When they did all these things that gamers didn't want, they got reamed up the butthole. Don Matrick literally was strung up by his shorts and thrown out of Microsoft within a few months, and they had to redesign the console from the ground up so that people would actually buy the thing that fall, okay? So maybe what they're afraid of is that if they 100% get into cloud gaming and then it flops, or what if we fully support cloud gaming, it launches and it doesn't work, it's laggy on everyone's internet, the games are choppy and buffering, and everyone's laughing at what a disaster this fucking idea was, and then everyone wants to go back to console. Oh, we didn't make any consoles, right? So maybe that's what it is. They want to make sure all their bases are covered just in case the cloud gaming doesn't work, or maybe they're afraid, like they did with the Xbox One, that people aren't ready for change. Because let's be very honest here. When the Xbox One was going to launch and Don Matrick said, no more game discs, everything digital, everyone freaked out. But here we are in 2019. I couldn't tell you the last time I bought a physical game disc. I get all my games digital. In some ways, Don Matrick actually was right. I have to openly admit that. I mean, he was a cocky bastard. The way he went about presenting it was completely wrong, and he was a piece of shit who got thrown right out of the company. But some of the ideas that he championed weren't so bad. actually going full digital for games being able to, like, for example, Bloodborne, okay, is a game that I've played multiple times, and because I have it digitally, I can always re-download it and play it again in a future date. Dark Souls 3, a game that I can play in a future. See what I mean? Like, by getting the games digitally, then you can replay them later in a different way, and it's a good thing. So, I guess there's pros and cons, and I don't know. Cloud gaming was just kind of meh for me. I don't think the game developers and game producers are sold yet, but well, I guess we'll see. But for me, it's just kind of wait and see attitude. I wasn't excited for it like some people are. Okay. Let's see here. James the Beastie Cheery said, how did Sony win E3 without even be there? Philly Buckeye Cheery said, I've been a Xbox gamer since the original Xbox. Microsoft haven't had a good exclusive IP since Halo or God of War. Since Obsidian won't be able to release an exclusive in a number of years, is there any hope that gamers will get a good new IP in the next 2 to 3 years? I don't know. I think it remains to be seen. They bought all these studios, right? But now they have to start making the Microsoft exclusive games. Sexy Ray Liotta tipped me $1, and interestingly enough, he made a very interesting comment, and he says, you didn't mention this? Oh no, see, I am going to mention it, Sexy Ray Liotta, which is why I'm not going to read your comment, so please don't take it personally, but I don't want to spoil. It's part of what I'm going to get to, okay? Okay, let's continue, guys. Oh, Vote Democrat cheered again. He said, I remember seeing Tim the Tat Man use a website called streampoll.tv once. I think it's a quick way to have a stream vote on things. Doesn't work. Use Streampoll once, and the whole thing got cheated on. People found a way to go around it. So, sorry, but that's not a good idea. All right, continuing on. The next thing that was meh at E3, mobile games. Now, you may say, mobile games don't belong at E3. Mobile games are a waste of everyone's time. Rubble, rubble, rubble. What you may not realize is that mobile games are actually more profitable, albeit by a little margin, but right now they're more profitable than actual mainstream full-fledged games. I'm not kidding. The microtransactions in mobile games are that profitable. So every company now is jumping on the mobile games bandwagon. So that's actually not what I'm criticizing. What I'm criticizing is the mobile games that were presented to us at E3 weren't very good. Commander Keen coming back after like 25 years, doesn't sell me on a mobile game. A mash-up game of Splinter Cell with The Division and stuff like that. All the Ubisoft titles didn't look very good. The stupid, what is it? The Pop WoW figurine Gears of War game. You see what I mean? Like, every mobile game they showed didn't impress me. If you showed me, oh my god, here's a really cool mobile game that's coming out, and it's interesting, and it ties in with another game that you like, and whatever, okay, maybe that would have blown me away. In reality, the best mobile game they showed at E3 was one that already existed, Elder Scrolls Blades on the Switch. Because one of the major complaints of people playing Elder Scrolls Blades is that it's a tap screen game, and it's very hard to control the combat, especially action. Oh god, he's attacking me, I gotta block, and you gotta do a touch screen, and it lags and stuff. It's hard to play it. When you're playing that game on the Switch with a nice wide screen with the Joy-Cons, it's gonna be like playing Elder Scrolls, because you have a controller, right? You're using a controller. That's actually a mobile game that will see vast improvement being ported to the Switch. Outside of that, like, none of the mobile games that they showed me at all, looked impressive. And in addition, a lot of them didn't even have release dates. And that's what pisses me off, is like last year, Elder Scrolls Blades was supposed to come out in September, so they hyped it up. Then it got delayed to December, delayed to January, delayed to February, and then finally came out like a month and a half ago. If you're going to advertise your mobile game, you got to tell us when it's coming out so we can get hyped for it. You know who did this right? Bethesda. That first year Bethesda did a press conference in 2015, and they said, oh, Fallout Shelter, oh, by the way, it's out now. Holy fuck, really? And everyone ran and downloaded it and dumped a ton of money into it, and it became an insanely profitable game for them. That's the way to do it. Now, oh, here's a mobile game that doesn't really attach to much else that we're doing, or if it does, it's a kind of a shitty spin-off. And by the way, we don't even know when it's coming out. That doesn't buy hype for mobile games. So for me, the mobile game mentions at E3 don't piss me off. What pisses me off is the mobile games are these shitty knockoffs that obviously are meant just for microtransactions, and they don't even know when the hell they're coming out. It's meh. Okay? No nice names 2000 cheer. You said, like the console and the discs, take the game to a friend and play it there, trade it in or sell it, swap the game with someone who wants to swap, or just see it on the shelf with your other games. Fair enough. There's still reasons to have physical disc for sure. Continuing on. Another meh for me for E3. And by the way, I'm taking a look at time here. We still got plenty of time. This is good because I got a lot to cover, guys. The next meh for me, Ghost Recon Breakpoint. Okay? Ubisoft basically made their entire conference mostly about shooter games. And one of the big games that they talked about for a long ass time was Ghost Recon Breakpoint. But nothing they presented made me want to play the game. Like, in reality, what I was looking at didn't look very original or interesting to me. It looks like Ghost Recon in the woods. You're going to be taking out bases. You're going to be teaming up with people to do it. What did they show me that blew me away? John Bernthal, the actor who played the Punisher and Shane in The Walking Dead. Why is that selling the game? You know what I mean? Like, he's a main character. Okay, the story in these games a lot of the times is just a fucking afterthought anyway. It's more about the gameplay. So why do I care that John Bernthal is a character in this game? You see what I mean? Like, I'm watching this. It's hilarious because they did this giant presentation. The whole thing about Ubisoft that people talked about on the internet was the dog. Not John Bernthal. The dog that came out with John Bernthal was the big thing that people talked about at the Ubisoft press conference because he was cool. Outside of that, no one talked about the games. No one cared about Ghost Recon Breakpoint. So for me, they talk about Breakpoint at length. They show a story-based trailer. They explore all these new modes that'll be in it. And at the end, I'm not sold on it. And that's not good. You know, just kind of, It's supposed to be one of their biggest releases of the year. And I'm like, I don't even know if I'm playing it. I might skip it. Apex Legends Season 2. As we've already discussed on this very broadcast, Apex Legends seems to have completely fizzled out. Its hype is completely gone. So when they announce Season 2, you're like, wow, they're going to have a new map. They're going to have a new gameplay modes. There's going to be maybe 3, 4, 5 new characters to really add new variety to the game. Maybe a whole arsenal of new weapons. Season 2 is going to be hype. And then instead, one new character, one new weapon, no new game modes. Maybe there's a dragon, no new maps. Why even call it Season 2? It's basically the same as the last update they did. It's a little minuscule update that will barely update anything. It's not the worst of E3, but it's definitely a meh announcement. If you still play Apex Legends, I guess you're happy, but for those of us who dropped the game, it's certainly not a reason for us to go back and play it again, and in fact, it's kind of a meh. Okay? This next one, if you disagree with me on it, I 100% am okay with that. I seriously am. But I get the feeling that some people will agree with me. The Smash Brothers announcements. At this point, June of 2019, I don't care about new characters being added to a game from December of 2018. And I know there's a hardcore Smash fan base, and they're totally into Smash Ultimate, and they want to know about every little piece of content coming out. But for me, it's like, oh, the hero from Dragon Quest and Banjo-Kazooie are going to be in Smash? I don't care. I played the game in December and I liked it. The story mode was great. I played it online and thought it was fun. And then I'm done with it. I'm not going to get into a hype competitive mode for this game. I don't play the game on a regular basis. I don't plan to go back to it. For me, I get to spend extra money to unlock fan service characters. Oh, whoopity doopity. You see what I mean? It's not a bad announcement, but for me, it's like, I don't care. And I understand there are people who completely disagree and are super hype. Ooh, Smash! New characters in Smash! New characters in Smash! Smash, smash, smash! But not for me. For me, it's not a big deal. Ow, that hurt. I actually hit the front thumbstick again in my forehead. Okay. Continuing on. The final meh announcements for me right now. Damn, I'm getting a mark on my head from where I hit the thumbstick. Ow. The final meh announcements for E3 for me, Project Scarlet and Halo Infinite. I know, oh my god, people who love Microsoft are going to kill me now. But hear me out. Hear me out. Project Scarlet, it's a new console coming out for Microsoft. Great. Okay, why do I need the new console? Oh, well, it's way more powerful than the last one. We finally put in a solid-state drive, so it's much faster than the last one. And everything they're mentioning is exactly the same thing they tell us every single console generation. Every time there's a new console, they tell me it's the latest and greatest, the best graphics, the newest one, the best one that you need because you're going to get the best gaming experience. And everyone claims their console is the most powerful console. Well, I'm sorry, but in 2019, when you tell me 8K graphics, 120 frames per second, I just don't believe it anymore. Because you told me amazing, groundbreaking 1080p at 60 frames on the Xbox One, and it never happened. Okay, it just didn't. You told me the Xbox One was going to be the console to own, not only for all the best games, but also it was going to be the media center of my house where I was going to plug in my cable and I was going to have everything go through it. That never came to fruition. You told me that the Kinect was going to change my life and have integration and groundbreaking, stuff going on where I was going to be able to talk to my Kinect and have it do things for me. And that never came to fruition. Like every promise Microsoft made to me last console gen with the Xbox One fizzled out and died and never happened. So why in the holy hell would I believe a thing they have to say about Project Scarlet? Sure, maybe there's a capability on Project Scarlet for certain games to run at 8K resolution, okay? Sure, maybe there's the capability of games to run at 120 frames per second. But the reality is, most game developers don't take advantage of this. They don't want to design their games one version for your souped up version of a console, another version for the mediocre version of the console, and another version for that version. They don't want to make a game 10 times to make it cross-platform. They want to make the game and then do minor tweaks to make it work on everyone's platform. So if your Project Scarlet has the best hardware possible in it, it doesn't necessarily mean that the game developers are going to take advantage of it. And if anything, this last console generation with the base PS4 and Xbox One, PS4 Pro, Xbox One S, Xbox One X, Xbox One XXXXX Triple XL up the ass Super Championship Edition, we've seen that even no matter what they put in the console, the game developers just don't live up to the hype. So why am I excited about Project Scarlet? I'm not. I'm really not. And this is the complete opposite. Last console gen, I bought the hype. I was excited for the new consoles. I'm not. I'm incredibly skeptical now because they did not live up to the promises that they made last console gen at all. And now you want me to buy another console with the best hardware and everything in it. Who knows if anyone will take advantage of it, right? So, to me, Project Scarlet isn't a bad announcement. It's good to know they're working towards the future, but it's a meh. Now, the other thing, Halo Infinite. Wow, there's a new Halo game coming out for the Project Scarlet. Great. Did they show any gameplay? No. Did they explain anything about the game? No. All they did was show a cinematic trailer showing that Master Chief is back and is set in the future, and that the war was lost, and now it's Master Chief's job to try to even win this war as a one-man army because it looks like the resistance is gone or whatever, right? The human resistance. Okay. But telling me Halo Infinite is a launch title for the Project Scarlet doesn't sell me. Why not? Because I played Halo 4 and 5, and they sucked ass. They were not as good as the original Halo trilogy of games. And much like I've already explained with the Gears of War franchise, alright? Halo, when it got bought out by Microsoft, just like Gears, and got handed over to 343 Industries or whoever the fuck they are instead of Bungie, has stunk. It's not as good as the original games. They're not. They're just not very good. I think the stories are lackluster and terrible, and the multiplayer's meh. So why do I care that Halo Infinite is a launch title for the Scarlet? The answer is I don't. What I want to hear is what are the other first-party titles that are going to be on this thing that are going to be system sellers? Why do I need that Scarlet at launch? Because Infinite ain't it. Infinite will probably be okay, and everything else you're going to want. What did I buy this for, right? We need real system sellers. So hopefully in the next year, now that Microsoft bought all these all these development studios, they'll make good use of them, and we'll actually get concrete knowledge of new first-party Microsoft games that will be good launch titles for the Scarlet. Halo Infinite is not it for me. If you told Halo 3 was a system seller for the Xbox 360, Halo Infinite is not a system seller for Project Scarlet because the series has just gone downhill for a long time. Okay? All right, Philly Buckeye just cheered. He says, every time they brag about the graphics of the games, it just means the games will be more streamlined with even less features. How about focusing on good gameplay and lots of content first? Also, Microsoft used Master Chief Collection as a system seller, and look how badly that went. Right, it was one of the worst running games on Xbox One at launch. It barely worked. Okay, so we've gone through the best. We've gone through the meh. Ladies and gentlemen, the segment you've all been waiting for, my personal rundown of the worst things at E3 2019. Incidentally, it's the longest list of them all. Oh yeah, let's do it. All right. So we start off, ladies and gentlemen. Oh, hold on. What? Now this is weird. I guess I'll read this off. I received a $1 tip from Real American History who says, why don't you ever give credit when it's due? You said it's about 100 degrees, yet you're comfortably cool. That's because John Stannard invented refrigeration, an African-American black man. It wasn't Italian mafiosos who invented it. What the fuck are you talking about? What the hell does that have to do with E3? Thanks for the $1 tip. Well, I'm glad he did that tip before we got started with the countdown. All right. Continuing on. The worst things at E3 2019. Number 1, EA is a huge stinking motherfucking dud. Their electronic digital press conference, whatever you want to call it, started off strong with Star Wars, the Jedi. What is it? The Jedi Lost. Oh my god, I forgot the name of it. What the fuck is it called? Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order. Man, I had a brain fart there. They started off strong with Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order, and then you realize that was all they had. Apex Legends, all their sports games, everything was up. They had nothing this year. It was a huge, ginormous flop. Thank God they didn't have a stage show, but what a twist from previous years. Like, EA really crashed, burned, and sucked ass this year. Okay? Shout out to Nihilistic Goldfish, who just did a 5,000-bit cheer and said, yes, Phil, give it to him. Well, thank you, Nihilistic Goldfish. You're obviously the top cheerer of the day. I very much appreciate that. Let me get you up on the leaderboard. That's 5,000 bits. Wow, thank you, man. Although I will say, please, guys, if you can, the best way to help me today is tipping me. I'm just saying right now I really need help with tips, and tips have been pretty slow. But I do appreciate that, Nihilistic Goldfish. Thank you. And Venom Symbia has resub for 14 months. He said, do you like the Lizzie McGuire games? I never played Lizzie McGuire games, so I don't know anything about that. All right? All right, continuing on. Next, ready? Oh my god, this was a huge running thing of E3, running theme of E3 2019. The game showed way too many trailers. Or the game. Let's try this again. I'm really having a brain fart. Hold on. Let's try this again. A thing that was a major running theme of E3 2019. Everyone showed off way too many trailers and cinematics and far too little gameplay. In fact, I think on one hand, I can count the games that showed major gameplay. Doom Eternal, Final Fantasy VII Remastered, Watch Dogs Legion, Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order. Can we even make 5? Can we make 5? I don't know if we can make 5. You see what I mean? Like, everyone was showing CGI trailers with no gameplay this year. And even though that's kind of a thing that they used to do in the past, I thought that was kind of done. You know what I mean? Like, I actually thought that, like, those days were over and that we were actually going to see a lot of gameplay at E3. And it seems like everyone took 20 steps back this year and weren't ready to present gameplay and instead just showed a cinematic trailer. And it's very frustrating when you're hyped, and even when things leak, and we're going to talk a little bit about that in a moment. A few things leaked this year earlier, and you're like, okay, so the announcement was leaked. At least now we'll see gameplay at E3, and there was no gameplay. This harkens back many, many years ago to when Sony got into hot water by showing off this presentation at E3 for Killzone. Now, I don't remember which Killzone it was. It was one of the Killzones. And they showed you this thing that looked like gameplay. All right, and you're like, oh my god, if it looks that good, this game's going to be amazing. Come to find out, it wasn't. They actually made a cinematic trailer that simulated gameplay to make you think the game was going to be great, and when the game came out, it looked nothing like that at all, and they got a lot of flack for it. Was it Killzone 2? It was Killzone 2, people are saying. So that's what I'm wondering, like, okay, it's great to know these games are coming out, but if you don't have gameplay to show me, how do I know that anything you're showing me in these cinematic trailers is even representative of the final product? You could be blowing smoke up my ass, and then later on the game ends up being far inferior, and that's very, very, very disappointing. And that was a major running theme and one of the worst things at E3 by far. Okay? Up next, this is one I wanted to save to talk about. Microsoft bought Double Fine Studios and made them a Microsoft exclusive studio and actually thought this was a good thing. Now, ladies and gentlemen, the reason we really need to address this is the central figure about everything that has to do with Double Fine Games is Tim Schafer. Tim Schafer is a legendary game creator who back in the day, we're talking a long time ago, made some revolutionary games, you know. These point-and-click kind of adventure games that were really entertaining and fun, and then later on he ventured out and made games like Psychonauts and stuff like that. So over the years, the guy has a good track record for good games. But not everyone can stay at the level that they once were, okay? Tim Schafer in the last 10 years has proven himself to have lost all kind of control over himself and the things that he does. He does not live up to his promises, and the fact that he has to constantly keep crowdfunding games because his games don't sell and make tons of money to fund the next game's development means something, okay? In particular, with the development of Broken Age, he lied and scammed his way into making tons of money and never actually finished the game, yet now is working on other games, okay? If you're not aware, all right, Broken Age was a game that he claimed was going to be a harken back to his old school point-and-click adventures. He was going to go back to the old game design, and it was going to be puzzles with cool dialogue and interesting characters, creative and colorful worlds, and game that you're going to want to play and really experience because it really feels like a fun narrative adventure. And to some point, you know, that's what he delivered on. He raised an insane amount of money to make this game, all right? And he said it was going to be sold in 2 parts, Part 1 and Part 2. Part 1 was delayed and delayed and delayed and finally came out. And admittedly, Part 1 of Broken Age was quite good. It had voice acting from celebrities like Jack Black. The game design, I actually liked the game design of it. The puzzles were good. The environments were nice. I very much enjoyed the first half of Broken Age. But then Part 2 got delayed. And delayed, and delayed, and delayed, and delayed, and delayed. And when it finally came out, only because fans were in such a fucking uproar that he never released the second half of this game, it was apparent he basically didn't finish the game ever. What he did is he wrote a plot and ran out of money because he squandered it all on who knows what. And basically the second half of the game is in exactly the same spots as the first half of the game. The same environments, the same characters. He reused everything from the ground up because he didn't have any money left to finish the game. So you played Broken Age the first half, and then you played the second half, and you played the same game twice, only with different puzzles in different spots, but it was the same exact stuff again. And that game's ending sucked. It was a bad ending. It was just really disappointing, especially for fans of Tim Schafer who bought into the hype of a crowd-funded game and thought that he would do a good job. He ripped everyone off, and he never apologized. In his mind, that game is amazing, and that game is worth it, and, you know, it's a complete product, when in reality, the game is 100% unfinished, and he basically took everyone's money and ran. Now, did he personally spend it on other shit, or did he just literally overspend and not have enough money to finish the game? Who knows? But that game sucked, okay? So now, I'm making Psychonauts 2, and I'm crowdfunding it. And people were dumb enough to crowdfund it. They spent money on this shit. Now, this game has been brought into Microsoft, okay? So Psychonauts 2 now will be a Microsoft-published game. Why do they think that this game is going to be good? All right. Why do they think that this game is going to be finished on time? If anything, they showed the teaser. Again, not gameplay, but they showed the teaser stuff at E3 that was like a cinematic. The cinematic didn't look good. It looked like Psychonauts 1, a game from like 15, 20 years ago. So why are you sold that Tim Schafer has any competence left? I hate to say it, Tim Schafer, ladies and gentlemen, is the George Lucas of video game development. Someone who had it back in the day, made hit after hit, and reinvented himself a few different times. Think of George Lucas, Star Wars, Indiana Jones, etc. He was a hit. But now, this motherfucker can't do anything to save his life. Everything he touches gets ruined. Anything that George Lucas is involved in sucks. He ruined his own Star Wars movies. You know what I mean? George Lucas should have just gotten the fuck out of movie making in the 90s, but instead kept sticking his toe in, and now he's pissed because Star Wars is owned by Disney, and he's not involved in it anymore, and he hates the new Star Wars movie. Tim Schafer was great back in the day, and he should have fucking hung his coat up and went on into the sunset, but instead he wants to stick around and pretend like he's pertinent. Just to make matters worse, Tim Schafer is one of the most polarizing figures in the gaming community because he gets involved in things like Gamergate and SJW shit, and just, it's too much. In my opinion, Tim Schafer and Double Fine being bought by Microsoft is actually a negative for Microsoft. They have now gotten themselves involved in a clusterfuck of controversy and negativity that they don't need heading into a new console launch. So for me, I certainly think that this is a bad thing. And I thought this actually was one of the worst things at E3, while hilariously, Microsoft thought it was a big acquisition. They brought him out on stage and he made jokes. I'm like, oh no, like this lummox is out on stage. It's George Lucas all over again, right? Okay, DJ Runo cheered and said, even EA apologized for SimCity's screw up and Ubisoft for Assassin's Creed Unity. You're right. Tim Schafer has absolutely refused to apologize for Broken Age and still insists the game is done and it's a good game. What an asshole. Okay, moving on. The next thing that's a bad part of E3 2019, the Terminator is in everything. The Terminator is literally in everything. If you told me the Terminator was a special guest character in Smash Brothers at this point, I wouldn't be fucking surprised. The Terminator is in Gears of War 5 as a special DLC. The Terminator is in Ghost Recon Breakpoint as a special thing. The Terminator is going to be apparently a DLC character in the Mortal Kombat 2 Season Pass. What the fuck? The Terminator probably is a fucking special guest cook on Cooking Mama too. Why is the Terminator in everything at E3? One thing as a guest character is cool. Every fucking game, no, like it's bad. That's bad. It's oversaturation. I understand they're making a new Terminator movie and they want to get the Terminator back out in the mainstream culture so people will care again, but that's not the way to do it. The Terminator is cool every once in a while, not every 5 seconds in every fucking game I play. The Terminator was way too fucking strong of a presence at E3. Okay? Philly Buckeye cheered. He said, Tim Schafer is the snake oil salesman who keeps the games industry and games media on his side by pandering to their politics. He's a hack, and it's nice that someone like you is calling him out. Joe Pesci tipped me $1, okay? And he's asked me a question about something I'm about to talk about. So Joe Pesci, thank you for the $1 tip. You're going to find out in a moment, and I don't want to spoil. So thank you for the $1 tip, and sorry I'm not going to read your comment, but I don't want to spoil. You just got to be patient. Okay, let's continue on, okay? The next bad thing at E3 2019, and this was a huge one for me personally. I don't know about you guys. So we all knew that Sony was not going to be at E3. We knew this. But I was of the impression that at least some Sony-produced games would get updates and or we'd get some information about Sony games at E3. We got nothing. And in particular, the one that really miffed me the worst, The Last of Us 2. Last year, it was like the main focus of Sony. What about Ghosts of Tsushima? Why didn't we get any information about these games? There was nothing about the big hitters that we wanted to know about that they presented last year. Nothing at E3. Now, if Sony comes in a couple of weeks and says, we're doing our own conference, here's the data, that's fine. But, E3 has always been the moment when you release the information about your games. And that's what I mean. I think E3 really is losing its prominence. Because if they're not even talking about the biggest Sony exclusives at E3, that means that E3 has lost its relevance. You know what I mean? I thought for sure we were getting a release date for Last of Us 2 at E3, and we heard nothing at all, zero about the game. Pretty crazy, huh? DJ Runo cheered. He said, so much Terminator stuff at E3, but no one invited Arnold to the show. We had Keanu Reeves and John Bernthal, but no one could invite Arnie. Unhappy face. And Guitar Player 1939 tipped me $10. Thank you very much, Guitar Player. You're the top tipper of the night. And actually, that's going to make our leaderboard way shorter. Thank you very much. I just screwed up. And that gets us up to $33 in tips. Thank you guys very much. I appreciate that. Thank you. All right, continuing on. All right. Let's see here. Oh, it's a troll. Okay, hold on a second. Bye-bye. Okay, let us continue, shall we, guys? The next worst thing about E3 2019, Dying Light 2, even though it was mentioned twice in 2 separate gaming conferences, guess what? Got glossed over completely. Did we see a single piece of new gameplay of the game? No. Did we get a single piece of new information about the game? No. I mean, we know when it's coming out, spring, but Dying Light 2 seemed to have been completely ignored. And that blows me away because, last year was a major focus, and it just seemed like this year people just weren't ready to talk about it. And I was like, why? It's a year later, you don't have anything else to show? Like, what happened here? In fact, the Square Enix press conference, I said this a few times during the conference, really seemed to me to be the conference that if you like JRPGs, that's your conference, or if you like Marvel. But if you don't like JRPGs or Marvel, there was nothing to talk about. And in particular, my wife was very interested in Dying Light 2 and was watching the whole conference, and there was almost, they mentioned, oh, it's coming out next year, and showed nothing. And she was like, that's it? I watched this conference for nothing. So that was pretty disappointing, and Dying Light 2 being basically a veritable no-show is pretty disheartening. I wonder what happened there, okay? Robert De Niro tipped me $1, and he says, you put my buddies Ray and Joe on the ground, so I must not go 0-3. With your newfound love for chill games, what are the chances of Animal Crossing being added to the mix? Very strong. Because people are telling me it seems like a very chill game that would be a great, nighttime stream. And I am very interested in checking it out next year because I've never played Animal Crossing before. Okay? Cow Juice just tipped me $11. I said, how do you think the children of Tim Schafer and Don Magic would feel seeing your videos talking about their fathers negatively? How do you think my dad feels about all the people who talk negatively about me? Probably the same, right? Who cares? I'm not talking negatively about them. I'm talking about a relative of theirs who deserve criticism. So I don't care. So there you go. All right, let's get Cow Juice up on the leaderboard as the top tipper of the day. That gets us up to $45 in tips. Thank you, everybody. Again, thank you to those who are tipping. You're helping me more than anything, and I really appreciate it. Yeah, 4335 just did a 100-bit cheer. Hold on a second. And he says the following. Sony and Nintendo have the right idea with the direct-style shows. They just show games when there's something to show instead of showing up to E3 with CGI trailers that will end up having nothing to do with the actual game and no gameplay. There you have it. Let's continue on. We're still going with the worst of E3 2019. The next entry is one that people were talking about, so I'm finally going to mention it. Elden Ring. Oh my god, people are going to string me up by my balls because I just said something from Software is bad. No. Stop that. Don't jump the gun. Oh god, the pitchforks are coming at me. Ah! Alright. Elden Ring is not bad. In fact, the little bit of information we've gotten about Elden Ring is good. It's going to be a game in the spirit of Dark Souls. It's going to play more like Dark Souls than Sekiro. It's going to have a Viking theme, and it's with the partnership of George R.R. Martin. All sounds good to me, okay? The problem I have with Elden Ring, there's nothing about it. Did we see gameplay? No. Did we get any information? No. Like, here's a slow-ass trailer, and that's it. Nothing. Zero. Zip. And the problem is, it already leaked. The Elden Ring trailer leaked 3 days ago before it was ever shown at any conference, so we already knew this existed, and it was kind of a big letdown to see the Elden Ring trailer play when you already saw it and get zero new info. Zero! It was a cock tease. It was a big-ass pain in the balls. I want substance. I want a delicious, juicy, meaty steak to tear into when I hear about a great new game like anything from Software. Instead of a steak, I got a dehydrated little frozen patty from a Hungry Man dinner, and I'm trying to eat it frozen, and it tastes like duty. That's what we got, and that pisses me off. Okay? So, it is what it is. It's disappointing that we didn't get more information about Elden Ring. Ripley Atomic sub for 15 months says, let us get closer to that sweet 550 sub. Sorry, I haven't been around much. Thank you, Ripley Atomic. I haven't checked on sub count. I'll check near the end of the stream, I guess. James the Beastie also cheered. He said low quality, and I don't even know what that means, but thank you, James the Beastie. All right, let's continue. Oh, this one, I don't know how many of you were going to agree with me and how many won't. For me, a huge negative this year was Bethesda, and quite frankly, how different Bethesda is now presenting themselves at E3. Allow me to explain. Bethesda never had a press conference at E3 until 2015. In 2015, there was a big announcement. Bethesda's doing a press conference, and they're doing it on Sunday night before most other companies are going. This is interesting. I wonder what Bethesda will have to announce. And they knocked it out of the fucking park. They announced Fallout 4 with the Fallout Shelter release coming out that day, the mobile game, and then the actual game coming out later that year. They announced Doom. They announced updates for all of their existing IPs. They announced new Wolfenstein games. It was like an amazing, oh my god, this is exactly what we want at E3. Surprises, new game release announcements, and badass stuff. That's what we want at a press conference at E3. And if you remember, it was nuts. The crowd was going bonkers. Everyone watching on stream. Bethesda by far won that E3 hand over fist. It was the best conference, and everyone was crazy positive about it. This year, Bethesda was more about personnel montages, personal testimonies from players and customers, slogans like "We are all together," and patting themselves on the own back for previous accomplishments like "We were the first company to do this," and "We were the first company to do that." Remember? "Oh, here's the first VR headset from 2012. Here's our own employee with duct tape on his head holding it on." And we're like, what the fuck? Like, that's not what we're tuning into the press conference for. And then when we were waiting for new game release announcements, we got almost nothing. And yes, the Doom segment was good, but outside of that, what else really happened at the Bethesda conference? It's like the opposite. Like, in 5 years that Bethesda has now done a yearly conference, they've completely forgotten about what made them popular in 2015, and now they're just putting out fluff like every other company. Like, Bethesda is slowly, I hate to say it, becoming EA, almost. Remember EA? "Oh, we donated a lot of money to charity last year. Let's pat ourselves on the back so you guys feel that we're not the worst publisher on the planet." And that's kind of what Bethesda's starting to do. That's not good. They went from Todd Howard being like a rock star head of a studio to like a running joke where every year he lies to you about what you're going to play and the game ends up being a piece of donkey shit. So, you see what I mean? Like, Bethesda is getting worse and worse every year. That's not good. And I'm really worried. That was one of the worst things about me for E3 is like, will Bethesda ever come back to where they were, the previous glory? I don't know, because it doesn't look good right now. Okay? The next to last worst thing at E3. Oh, hold on. I got some shout outs to do. Excuse me. We're almost there. We're not going to do that yet. Let's see. The Last Rambo cheered. He says, "A leak is unauthorized, so it's fair to give negative points when it was intended that the trailer will debut in the conference." Yes, because quite frankly, Last Rambo, even if the trailer hadn't leaked, if I had first seen Elden Ring at the conference, I would have said good, but what about it? And there was no info given whatsoever at E3 about Elden Ring. That sucks. If you're going to present the trailer, tell me about the game. I want to see the Viking chopping the fucking head off of a ghoul. You know what I mean? Give me something. Give me a snippet of something. They gave us zero. Is it their fault it leaked? I guess not. I mean, yes, technically, because they should have kept it under wraps. How the hell someone leaked it, I don't know. But it sucks that it leaked, but I would have wanted more anyway, so I am holding them to task for that. James the Beastie Cheers says, "Why does Bethesda think it's acceptable to make such low-quality games compared to others?" Well, because they were doing cheap cash grabs. This is the year of the cheap cash grab. And Fallout 47, Fallout 76, 100 fucking percent was a cheap cash grab. Doesn't matter what the fuck Todd Howard says or how the game devs claim it was planned that there would be no NPCs and now they're adding them for season 2 because that's the lore of the game. Go fuck yourself. That game was a cheap cash grab. Use the assets of Fallout 4 to make quick money. That's their own fault that now they're in the fucking, loser circle for doing that. Dark Viking 159 tipped me $10. Says, "I hope this helps." Thank you very much, Dark Viking. I appreciate that. Indeed it does, and I do really need the help right now. So thank you very much. $55 tips so far. Thank you, Dark Viking. Maya the Bees has resub for 2 months. It says we are all together for 11 months. Yes, 11-month resub. Thank you very much, Mia the Bees. And Dolphin Smash cheered. He says Bethesda is a publisher living off the legacy of their developers. In a lot of ways, you're right. In a lot of ways, you're right. Because the developers, like id and stuff, they've been around for a long time and they're well-renowned. And when they have a year like this year, whew, they had to rely on Doom. If they didn't have Doom this year, what did they even have? Nothing, right? Philly Buckeye cheered. He says, "Tell me lies. Tell me sweet little lies. Tell me lie." Right. All right. Let's continue on, everyone. The next to last worst thing at E3 2019. Ubisoft made their conference 90% military shooters because they didn't have an Assassin's Creed game to present. And if anything, all those years that we complained that Ubisoft is too much Assassin's Creed. Every year they put out an Assassin's Creed. One year they put out 2 Assassin's Creeds. It's too much, right? If anything, 2019 showed us that when Ubisoft doesn't have an Assassin's Creed game to present, they really don't have anything. They rely on Tom Clancy to save their ass. Tom Clancy's Ghost Recon, Tom Clancy's Division 2, Tom Clancy's Rainbow Six Update, Tom Clancy's Rainbow Six co-op game coming out next year. Tom Clancy sits on a toilet and takes a shit. Tom Clancy bakes a pie. Tom Clancy. Every fucking game is Tom Clancy. By the way, rest in peace to Tom Clancy, who actually was a really good spy espionage writer. He wasn't about all military shit. If you actually read his stuff, yeah, there was a lot of military stuff in his writing, but it was mostly like spy espionage shit. It wasn't every game's a co-op military shooter, but that's all fucking Ubisoft presented this year at E3. Their conference stunk because it was too much of the same. They have no variety, and that the little variety they had, like the roller derby game and this other game, Gods and Monsters, just was overshadowed by military, shooter, co-op, the same fucking game over and over. And it's bad because Ubisoft used to have this diverse conference where, wow, Ubisoft is a really diverse publisher. Look at all this variety. No Assassin's Creed, no variety, except for Watch Dogs. That was the one shining light of the whole conference. Thank God they actually did that first, but once they got that out of the way, you could have just fucking ignored the rest of the conference, and you missed nothing. So, for me, that was a huge negative. Flesh Pudding has resubbed for 3 months. Says, love the content, Phil. I can't watch all the time, but I watch live when I can, and I catch up on YouTube. Otherwise, love the Fallout 76 stuff. Thank you very much, Flesh Pudding. That's right. I agree with Dude Frozen. There was no Skull and Bones update. Skull and Bones, which was supposed to be like their big game, the pirate game, not even updating. So, what the hell happened to it? Is it even still coming out? Right? What's going on with that? Who knows? Instead, we get military shooter, military shooter, military shooter, military shooter, military shooter, military shooter, military marathon. You know, it's too much. Okay. Excuse me. All right, and no Beyond Good and Evil 2 as well was a giant detriment. Why would you present Beyond Good and Evil 2 years ago, then have an update last year, and now nothing? Zero. We have nothing to show. Is anyone working on this fucking game? You know, what's going on? Behind the scenes, we don't even know. Okay? All right. And ladies and gentlemen. Oh, hold on. Yeah, just cheered and said, at least you got Just Dance. Ladies and gentlemen, the number one worst thing at E3, a thing that is culturally appropriate for the time, a trending topic, and something that absolutely needs to be called out because it was the worst thing that happened at E3 2019. Dr. Disrespect goes inside of a fucking public bathroom and thinks it's funny to film people pissing without their permission, breaking California privacy laws, getting banned from Twitch, and getting his E3 pass revoked. What a boneheaded, dumb fuck thing to possibly fucking do to get attention for yourself, especially when you're a streamer who's popular for wearing a fucking wig and a mustache and overacting and being an idiot on stream. Now you're gonna pull a stunt like this at E3, making all streamers look bad and being a complete fucking moron. The sad fact is this guy, even though he's currently banned from Twitch, will come back because he's a big money maker for them. And even though he's banned from E3 this year, he'll be allowed back next year. And he's going to probably make more money because he pulled this stunt than if he didn't. When he comes back to Twitch, morons will come empty their fucking pockets and throw bucket loads of money on this guy's head because he broke the law and actually filmed people in a private area. It's actually against California privacy laws to do what he did, which is why he's in such hot water right now. I wouldn't be surprised if the police get involved, because it's a major thing to do that. You can't fucking do that. And he did it 100% for publicity. He wanted the attention, he got the attention he wanted, and morons will probably give him more money when he comes back to Twitch. That is a sign of our times. The biggest moron on YouTube doing drama shit in Japan. The biggest moron on Twitch doing drama shit to make money, and they will. That's terrible. If anything, please, I have to urge my audience. Support content creators who love what they do, who do things for a living because they have a passion for it, who because they love gaming, they put out content. They don't do drama shit, they don't do these stunts, they don't do stupid shit because they're genuine good people who love what they do and they want to be, you know, sharing of that with the world. Don't support people who pull stupid shit like this, because all you're going to have is morons at E3. You'll have the entire conference will be idiots doing pranks and stunts on the floor and doing stupid shit instead of people actually there to cover the fucking games. This is a poster child situation where this is exactly what you should not fucking do. This is not how you behave at a professional event. This is not how you behave at anything, and it makes everyone look bad, because now the front page news is Twitch streamer filming people in the bathroom, so everyone thinks Twitch streamers are a bunch of fucking pranking assholes instead of people who are to be taken seriously. This is 100% fucked, and I hate where the world's going, where people like this are supported on YouTube, right? I mean, look at what happened with Jake Paul with his fucking, was it Jake Paul? I can't remember his fucking name anymore. No, Logan Paul, who does the video in Japan with the swinging suicide bodies in the suicide forest, gets a slap on the wrist from YouTube and is still filthy rich. You know, he still gets to make content. Why? I have no fucking idea. And then this guy, he's going to be filthy. He's going to come back to Twitch, and the fans are going to say, oh, poor guy didn't get the stream. And they're going to send him thousands of fucking dollars that he doesn't deserve because he pulled a stupid fucking stunt. That's the complete polar opposite of what we want. You're going to make entire websites like Twitch and YouTube complete drama crap, and that's exactly how not to behave at a professional event. Can you imagine going to E3 and having people squirting you with shit and filming you everywhere and fucking with you? This is supposed to be a press event for games, and we have to deal with this stupid immature shit because a guy wants to make money? Fuck off. Okay. Couple shout outs here. AJ the DJ 747 subscribed to the channel. Thank you very much. And Nihilistic Goldfish just tipped me $12 and he says, when you spit facts, you spit them hard. Let the froggies hit the floor. There you go. Thank you very much for that tip. And you're the top tipper of the day, actually. All right. Thank you very much, Nihilistic Goldfish. Now you're the top chewer and the top tipper. And that makes our leaderboard insanely huge. Does it even fit? I think it does. Hold on. Yeah, it barely fits, but okay, good. Very good. All right. All right, guys. Now, I know we've gone for 2 hours. 2 hours. All right. What? Bodily fluids to me $1 says if it wasn't for Dr. D, you wouldn't be here right now streaming. Like he created game streaming? I've been streaming since 2013, jackass. Whatever. Tripe also tipped me $1. Thank you guys. All right. Anyway. Now, let us do the final segment of my E3 rundown broadcast. All right? This final segment, what I'd like to do to adjourn, all right, is I would like to go ahead and give you a full cumulative update, on all of the game releases coming out for the rest of 2019 that I am personally interested in, and also all the game releases coming out in early 2020 that I'm interested in that got release dates at E3. So I have to have two huge disclaimers. Disclaimer number one, these are games I am personally interested in. You may say, oh, well, what about this game? What about this game? If I don't mention it, chances are I'm not interested in it. But if you feel that I missed out on anything in this list that you want me to check out, by all means, contact me. Tell me in the stream chat today, probably ain't going to work. Maybe if you do a contribution, I give you a shout out, it will. Let me notice. But I would say you could send me via email. You could post on my forums. You could tweet me. That kind of stuff is how you can get noticed. All right? And, oh, you should have played this game. I hope you're going to play this game. Okay? Number two, this list only includes games with solid release dates. There were tons of games at E3 this year that they said spring or by the end of 2019. I did not include those games on this list because we don't actually know when they're coming out. Therefore, there's no reason to list them when it's an FYI, an uncertain thing. We don't know, right? So there you go. Only if the game has a solid release date and I'm interested in it is it on this list. Fair enough? All right, here we go. So first of all, one that literally launched immediately, Collection of Mana. So that's apparently a remake of the original Secret of Mana games 1 through 3 that was released as a collection for the first time ever to Western audiences. Secret of Mana 3, the first time I ever got a translation. That released immediately. And I'll be very honest with all of you. If I weren't already playing Final Fantasy IX, I might have gotten the collection and played Secret of Mana 3. But I'm already in the midst of Final Fantasy IX, which is going to be a lengthy playthrough. So there's no way I can all of a sudden start playing another JRPG out of thin air. This sadly happened a few years ago. If you remember, I think it was Mother 3 ended up releasing right after E3, and I was already playing Persona 5, so there was no way I could play it. So we're kind of in the exact same situation, okay? So, all right, there you go. The first really major release, Crash Team Racing, that's June 21st. That's the remake of the classic game for PS1, now with online capabilities. Absolutely, I'm going to be checking that one out, and I'm very excited for it. Judgment. Now, I don't know how many of you have heard about this game, Judgment. This apparently is from the makers of Yakuza, and it's very much in the style of Yakuza, but apparently, I guess it's supposed to be, like, more dramatic. I don't really know too much about it, but I'm interested in it, alright? And the thing is, if you pre-order the game on PlayStation 4, okay, you apparently can play it early. Like, I think they said if you pre-order on PlayStation 4, you could play it on June 21st. But if you don't pre-order it, then you can play it on June 25th. I don't know how that works, and I don't know if that's 100% correct. I was just going off of the information I found on a website, a gaming website. Now, I don't know much about it, but I am interested in it. If you guys want to see me play it, I would consider playing it, okay? Alright, The Sinking City. This is a game that was delayed multiple times. It was actually supposed to come out last fall. It's supposed to be a horror/thriller style game with H.P. Lovecraftian themes. That's coming out on June 27th. On June 28th, the day after, Super Mario Maker 2. Now, this is really cool because as we learned last week, or was it 2 weeks ago, Super Mario Maker 2, not only is it going to have the same kind of content from the first Super Mario Maker, but it's going to have a story-based campaign. Don't ask me how that's going to work. And it also is going to have online components. Although, sadly, after they announced the online components, then they kind of scaled back and were like, well, you can't really play with your friends, and you can't really do this or that. And some people were really disappointed. We're hoping for more, and I could totally understand that, why people would be disappointed. It is what it is, I guess. But anyway, yeah, you know, I am going to be playing that Super Mario Maker 2, okay? Now we move on to July. Now, ladies and gentlemen, typically, the month of July is the slowest gaming month of the year. Typically, the month of July has almost nothing. 2019 has flipped the formula on its head. July is actually a busy gaming month. There is one major release every single week of the month. And that blows me away because that never happens. So let's go ahead and let's tell you all about them, all right? The first week of July, on July 2nd, we've got Apex Legends Season 2 launching. So you're talking a new character, new gun, you know, gameplay tweaks to the Mozambique, and supposedly maybe something with a dragon that no one really understands. So that's coming July 2nd. On July 4th, Stranger Things 3 is coming out. It's a video game of Stranger Things. I don't know anything about it, but I saw Stranger Things Seasons 1 and 2, so I guess maybe I should play it. I don't know what kind of a game it is. I hope, what I'm hoping is it's not like a really shitty tie-in game that's just a junker. You know what I mean? I hope that it actually is a good one. I guess we'll find out, but that's coming out July 4th, okay? And then, the end of that week, supposedly, is Sea of... Fuck, I didn't write down the name of it. Hold on a second. Sea of Solitude. For those who don't know, Sea of Solitude was an indie game that was featured at last year's E3, and it was a game that has a lot of water mechanics and also monsters dealing with water. The game looked very interesting at last year's E3, so apparently it's finally coming out on the 8th of July, or excuse me, the 5th of July, okay? That's the first week of July. 3 games, all right? Then the second week of July, we've got Dragon Quest Builders 2 on July 12th. Now, we saw this at the Square Enix press conference. I liked how it looked. It looks like it's going to be a really fun, chill game. The difference between this and Minecraft, it actually has an ongoing narrative and story and significantly more detail in the combat and the monsters of the game. So that could be pretty cool to check out in July, okay? Continuing on, Marvel Ultimate Alliance 3 for the Switch comes out July 19th. And that's a game I will be looking to do a full co-op playthrough. And if you're interested in that, when it happens in July, I'll let you know. Probably the first week of July, I'll start having people contact me if they're interested in playing with me. Because it is drop-in, drop-out online co-op, just like the previous games. So I'd like to see if we could get a full team of 4 playing and doing a variety of characters and everything. It could be pretty cool to do a full playthrough of that in co-op, okay? Then at the end of July, we've got Wolfenstein Youngblood on July 26th. It is a cooperative 2-player first-person shooter in the world of Wolfenstein, featuring the 2 daughters of B.J. Blazkowicz, who apparently has completely disappeared in war-torn France, and it's up to the daughters to go in there and try to rescue him, and it's supposed to be set in the 1980s. Pretty cool premise. I'm not 100% on if I'll be playing it co-op or solo yet, but more on that as we get closer to it. Okay, everybody? Okay. Now we've got August. Admittedly, August, things slow down a lot. In August, there's almost nothing going on until the very end of August. But let's talk in early August. On August 2nd, there's Madden 20. I'll be honest with you guys, I'm not buying it. I'm not. If people want to donate it to see me play it again, like they did, what was it, last year, the year before, then I would consider it. But there is zero chance that I'm going to buy Madden this year. So it's up in the air whether I play it or not, okay? Then there is no releases from the 2nd until the 22nd of August when Ononaki releases. Now, Ononaki, a game that looks interesting, but I don't necessarily 100% know if I want to play it or not. I'm on the fence. I'm curious to see if you guys would be interested if I played Ononaki in August. Then a game called Control is coming out on August 27th. You may say, what is that? Well, it's from the makers of Atom Wake, and Quantum Break. Quantum Break, I actually liked the story. The gameplay mechanics were boring and terrible. Control is a game that we first saw last year at E3, where apparently, Swaggin says it's the 13th. According to the release schedule I looked at, it's the 27th. So I don't know if I got the date wrong, but they said it was the 27th, okay? So anyway, Control seems like a unique game. There's horror elements to it, but there's also, it's just weird. It's very hard to tell what on earth this game is. With that game developer on board, it's probably going to be something fun and artistic. Will that translate to a fun game is the question, because Quantum Break, with its story changes and cutscenes dependent on what you chose, and real actors tied in with stuff was good, but then the gameplay stunk. So I guess we're going to have to see how Control fares, okay? DJ Runo Cheery says, a couple days ago I asked if you would play NHL this year in September if it was donated. Would that be possible? If it's donated, it's possible. So there you go. Okay, continuing on. Astral Chain for the Switch comes out on August 30th, and apparently Astral Chain is going to be the next game from Platinum Games, so it's going to have that kind of Platinum Games vibe and combat engine. We'll see. Blair Witch also released August 30th. I've already talked about Blair Witch on this broadcast, so you know all about it, and I am going to be checking it out. Now, one thing that's confusing me here, Man of Medan. This is supposed to be the new game series, and it's supposed to be a horror anthology series from the makers of Until Dawn, okay? If you're not aware, a horror anthology series means that there's going to be a series of games released with the same cast, so the same people will be in it, but there'll be completely different plot lines and stories. For example, if you think American Horror Story, for those of you who've seen the series, has a lot of the same actors that carry over every year, but every single year it changes the whole plot. It mixes the whole plot up, okay? So if this ends up being a horror anthology series, that means this is the first of many games. Now, Man of Medan originally was supposed to come out August 30th, but I was looking at game release schedule, and it's, like, gone. Like, I can't find it anywhere. So apparently they had said it was going to come out the end of August, and now something's happened where it's changed, unless people just removed it. I don't know what happened, but if Man of Medan comes out, I'd love to play it. I loved Until Dawn, but it has to come out. I don't know if it's coming out or not. Okay? Arctic Service Charity says, you get to play Judgment on the 21st instead of the 25th if you pre-order. Judgment is a modern film noir mystery crime spin-off of the Yakuza universe made by the Yakuza devs, but with no actual Yakuza character cameos, with a fresh cast instead. It has detective mechanics a la LA Noir and is very good, so I hope you play it. Thank you for that information. Sounds good. All right, let's continue. On September 5th, the beta for Ghost Recon Breakpoint is being released, and quite frankly, I want to check this out because I was not sold on Ghost Recon Breakpoint, and I want to know what the hell this game is going to be, so I'll definitely be checking that out on September 5th, okay? Then on September 6th, we've got Gears of War 5. Again, I'm on the fence whether or not I actually want to play Gears of War 5. It's going to be more about you and your feedback, telling me if you want to see me play it or not, determining if I play Gears 5 or not, okay? Borderlands 3 is releasing on September 13th. That is a game that absolutely I would be very interested in doing a cooperative playthrough of, and I already possibly have co-op partners with Brian and Kekken who have expressed interest. So if we did like a full 3 to 4 player co-op of the whole game, it would probably be really fun. And there hasn't been a Borderlands game in years, so this will definitely be a good outing, I feel. Okay. Continuing on, Daemon Ex Machina. Already talked about it in this broadcast. It's basically supposed to be like the spiritual successor to the Armored Core series, so there's going to be mech combat. I don't know how good it will be, but that's coming out supposedly September 13th as well. Okay? 1 week later, The Legend of Zelda Link's Awakening Modern Remake for the Nintendo Switch will be coming out on September 20th, and I'm definitely going to be checking that out. That sounds good to me. Okay, continuing on. The new Contra, and I apologize because I wrote down the name of it over here. Contra Rogue Core is coming out on either September 24th or 26th. The reason I say that, I found two conflicting dates, and I tried to correspond it, and I used 3 websites, and 2 said one date and 1 said the other, and I couldn't figure it out. So it's either September 24th or 26th. Contra Rogue Core is coming out, the new Contra game, and I am interested in it, but I'm not 100% sure if I'm going to play it, but I'm interested in it, okay? Then we move on to October. Now, this is where things get weird, all right, guys? I got to say something. So I just mentioned, what, 1, 2, 3, 4, how many games? Let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, at least 6 to 7 major releases in September. I mentioned 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 releases in August. I mentioned 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, like 6 releases in July. I don't know what's going on, but October is like very dry. Usually October is a crazy busy month for game releases. In fact, October ends up with the beginning of that hardcore gaming season where you have to empty your wallet if you want to catch up with all the new game releases. This October, there's not that much. I don't know what's going on this year, if things are changing, but not only is there not that much, 3 of the games released on the same day. Talk about cannibalizing the gaming market, right? So in early October, oh, that's right, and I apologize, guys, I forgot Code Vein. Code Vein is also coming out September 27th. Yes, September 27th, Code Vein. My fault, totally. It's on my calendar. I somehow didn't write it on here. I am playing Code Vein. So there you go. Code Vein, September 27th. Okay? All right. October. The first game of October, Ghost Recon Breakpoint on October 4th. But I don't know if I'm playing it. Whether I play it is going to solely hinge on how I liked that beta in early September. So we'll see, and that may depend if I play it. If not, there's not a single game coming out in October until October 25th. What on earth? Seriously, like, what is going on? Nothing? The whole month, nothing. The first game, Call of Duty Modern Warfare, October 25th. In addition to that, The Outer Worlds, the game from Obsidian, who made Fallout New Vegas, also comes out October 25th. In addition to that, Medieval's Reboot, the modernized remake of Medieval, that classic PlayStation 1 action game, is coming out on October 25th. So you're talking 3 ginormous releases coming out on the same day and nothing else for the rest of the freaking month. What is going on here? What is going on? I demand an answer. I want an answer. I want to know why no one put their games for October. What happened? I mean, last year, if you remember, there was a big kind of like gap in gaming because when Red Dead Redemption 2 came out, no one wanted to touch it with a 10-foot pole. They're like, man, we know Red Dead 2 is going to sell like hotcakes. It's all anyone's going to be talking about for 2-3 weeks. So we're not releasing our games around Red Dead 2. There's no Red Dead 2 caliber game this year. So what on earth happened that, nothing, what happened? Nothing in October. All right, let's continue on. The month of November. We start off with Death Stranding on November 8th. One of the most anticipated games of the year for me. Can't wait to play it. Pokemon Sword and Shield on November 15th. Great. And then in addition to that, Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order also on November 15th. So hopefully I beat Death Stranding in a week. Shenmue 3 releases November 19th now. That's after receiving a pretty hefty 3-month delay. It originally was coming out late August, but now it's coming out November 19th. And then on November 22nd, Doom Eternal. So pretty big releases in November, at least 5. There may be a few more by the end of the year, but at least 5 very high-profile releases. Absolutely nothing in December. 0 games. 0. Not a single game. 0. Zippo. Zowie. So hopefully the games from November will hold us over into December because there is nothing going on in December this year for whatever reason. Okay. Now, since at E3 we got so many games with release dates in 2020, I feel it is my obligation, since I'm trying to do a cumulative schedule update here, to tell you about the games also coming out in early 2020 so you know exactly what to expect. All right, so we're going to do that right now. Nothing in January, at least right now. Nothing really going on in January. Not surprising. Typically, it's July and January that are the 2 dead months of the year for games. this year coming up, looks like there will be absolutely nothing in January, which is pretty crazy, but I guess that's going to be how it goes. In February, on February 11th, it's the new Ori game. Now, here's the thing, guys. Back in the day, I played Ori and the Blind Forest, all right? And I thought the game was looking good and played well, and everyone watching on stream complained that it was boring and I should do something else. Now, keep in mind, back then was way before I became a full-time streamer. We're talking, I think it was like 2015 or something like that. So, people apparently didn't like my playstyle back then of just hyper-focusing on the game. Maybe if I played the new Ori and I interacted with everyone while I played it, it would be more entertaining. I don't know. But typically whenever I play these, they're called Metroidvania-style games. It's a combination of the formula of Metroid and Castlevania, where it's a 2D plane, you're exploring, you're solving puzzles and or doing combat, you're finding hidden areas, you're finding abilities and items that will let you progress to other areas. There's a lot of backtracking in these games. Typically when I play these games, people find them incredibly boring. I don't know why, because I actually like them, but people seem to think that they're boring. So I don't know. I mean, I wanted to put Ori on here because I think it's a game worth mentioning. I think the game looked great. The graphics were really good at the press conference at E3, but I'm nervous that if I play it, people will just ignore it and say, oh, it's boring, don't play it, do something else. So I'm going to leave it in your hands, the viewers, to determine whether or not I play this Ori game in early February or not, and we'll go from there, okay? Late February, there's Gods and Monsters. This is the game from Ubisoft, where apparently you're playing some kind of a creature. I'm not even sure what it is, maybe a demigod, and you're working for the gods, fighting off titans and monsters that are attacking them. It looks kind of cartoony, almost like Fortnite, but at least it's an original game from Ubisoft and not a fucking Tom Clancy shooter, so I'm interested in that. The very first installment of the Final Fantasy VII Remake is coming out March 3rd. This is the installment that's going to feature the Midgar saga, and it's going to be a full-fledged retail release of $60. Supposedly, from what we're being told from Square Enix, it will be a 100% full-length game, so I'm expecting, for a Final Fantasy game, 20 hours minimum, 40 hours likely, 60 hours maybe. We'll see. But I guess we'll see when the game finally comes out. Watch Dogs Legion comes out on March 6th, so that means we're only going to have 3 days to play Final Fantasy VII Remake before Watch Dogs Legion comes out. And Watch Dogs Legion, again, the game where you can take control of any NPC, seems like an interesting premise. Also, the fact that it's set in London is really exciting because I've never played a game set in London like this before in the modern era, and it should be pretty cool to have that cultural immersion. I think it's going to be a really fun game, so looking forward to that. On March 20th, we've got that new Animal Crossing that everyone has been talking about, and yes, I am very interested in checking it out and adding it as, maybe I'll do a main stream of it, but then I'll add it as my chill stream game at night, because it seems like it's that kind of game, right? A more laid-back, chill game, right? Then we've got Cyberpunk 2077 releasing on April 16th. I think that's an absolute no-brainer that I would be checking that one out, considering everyone's so excited for it. The next game from CD Projekt Red, Keanu Reeves, everything positive about it, right? Pretty good stuff. And then, the last game that I'm mentioning in this rundown, Marvel's Avengers, launching May 15th, 2020. I mean, that's almost a full year in the future now. I'm excited for it, and I hope that you guys are too. Okay? So, in summary, I don't necessarily think that E3 2019 was awful. I don't think it was great. I think that we got an interesting mix, as you saw when I went through the best and worst rundown of good and bad and meh. But admittedly, this year, if anything, we kind of saw that maybe this event isn't as important as it used to be. A lot of the press conferences were absolutely full of fluff and boredom. 2 major companies with EA and Sony didn't even freaking show up, but instead did digital conferences. EA and Nintendo, and then Sony didn't even do a digital conference, right? So, the prominence of E3 is starting to die. I'm still going to cover it for as long as they do it, but for me, it seems like it's going to be more about, these digital things just released whenever they want to during the year, rather than hyper-focusing on E3 being such a ginormously important thing. They're just going to do the little, okay, let's go ahead and do our little digital conference when we can, all right? I did like many of the announcements. In particular, like I said, things like The Outer Worlds and Star Wars Fallen Order, Cyberpunk, 12 Minutes, Ghostwire Tokyo, Doom Eternal, Watch Dogs Legion, Final Fantasy VII Remake, Marvel's Avengers, and all the Zelda stuff was great, but there was just so much, disappointing stuff that, leads me to believe within the next few years, E3 is going to change. I seriously do. I think E3 is going to change. It's going to become more of a fan fest or a convention than anything else. And you're going to have everyone doing digital presentations because they're not going to want to invest all the money to go to E3 and do a stage show when no one cares, right? So that's my opinion. You could completely disagree, and that's perfectly okay. But that is it. As of right now, this is officially the end of my E3 2019 coverage. I had 3 days where I spent a significant amount of time on it. This very broadcast is the final piece. Obviously, I want to say, if you joined me for any of the live streams, if you watched those conferences live with me and chatted with me in my stream chat, and if you watched, obviously, this broadcast live, thank you. If you watched any of these on demand on DSP Gaming, thank you. What I will say is this. You guys have been very generous and supportive during the streams. I don't know what's going on with the YouTube stuff because, sadly, YouTube doesn't make me any money. If you like this and you want to see it continue, please consider contributing. If you're watching this on YouTube, in the description of every one of the videos, there's links where you could tip me and you could contribute in other methods. Please consider it because I know right now things are bad and, you know, I obviously need that support if you can. If you like this stuff, you want to see me continue to do it, please, if you can, be supportive. All right? That is it for E3 2019. That's a wrap. I hope you enjoyed it. Thank you very much, everyone, for watching. Thanks, obviously, everyone who was very supportive during this particular stream. We actually got one final tip. A $1 tip from Real American History. It says, as a debt to the Mafia, the Yakuza threatened Miyamoto to create an Italian mascot instead of his original Japanese one. That's how you got Mario with every mafioso Mario sale to get a kickback. That's why NYC is still the crime capital of the world. Oh my god. Alright. So that is it, guys. Without further ado, I end you with a really awesome bumper that you guys have enjoyed for all of E3. Again, oh, hold on. I just received a $1 tip from Dude Frozen. He says, there are already rumors Wolfenstein Youngblood will have time-saver microtransactions for upgrading your weapons and such with real money. Shaking my head. What you said about Bethesda turning into EA looks more and more true. I'm nervous. I seriously am nervous. Like, that whole press conference this year did not have the vibe of a Bethesda press conference from years previous. It felt totally different to me. And I really am hoping that they're not changing for the worse, but I guess it remains to be seen, right? Alright, guys. Thank you for watching. I appreciate it. I hope you enjoyed my E3 coverage. Darkside Phil signing off for now. And I'll see you all for regularly scheduled gameplay a little later on. Alright, guys. Thank you, and peace out.